All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of XS Exceed. Somewhere in the 90s now, I think, character count wise. Today, I'm joined by friend of the show, Aevusonian. Hello, Aevusonian.
I'm Aevusonian.
That's Aevusonian. We know each other from work. That's not true. We know each other from the Breakfast Club server. Um, Today, Aevusonian has the arguably auspicious task of teaching me all about Hyde, a character in Exceed. Those are the only value judgments I'll be making about this character throughout the lesson. Um,
I'll do my best
actually,
to make it for you, don't worry.
Oh, thank goodness. Actually, super excited to learn about Hyde. I know that he is slightly contentious among Exceed players, but I think that he's got some interesting stuff, and I'm curious to see what Aevusonian's got to say about him. A couple of disclaimers, as always, if this is your first episode, like it is for Aevusonian, who's never watched my show before.
That is true.
Um, Before we get started, number one, we're going to be talking about playing to win on this show. If the lines of play that we're talking about don't sound fun to you, don't play that way. Um, uh, if the characters we're describing don't sound fun to you, don't play that character. In all seriousness, Exceed is a game you should play for fun. If you're playing it specifically to win and not having fun in the process, you're probably just going to quit before you get good, and that's no fun for anybody. So if the lines of play we're talking about don't sound good, play the way you want to play. Number two, we don't know everything. Exceed's not a solved game. I don't know anything. Aevusonian knows some things. It averages out to us together knowing a little bit.
About
Um,
25%, you know.
I'd say, yeah, around 25%. Um, take everything we're saying with a grain of salt. If your experience with Hyde is totally different and you have a different line than what Aevusonian's going to tell you about, him being on this show doesn't mean that he's right and you're wrong. And in fact, I think that you should tell me all about why we're wrong in the comments of this YouTube video. Yeah, with all that aside, Aevusonian, please, I'm dying to know a little bit about Hyde.
Yeah, so this is Hyde. He's from Under Night in Birth. You can tell because his fashion sense is completely lacking. Um, Hyde is the main character, essentially, of Under Night in Birth. And what that generally means in fighting games is you have a very Shoto-ish kit. You got your Fireball, you got your Tatsu, your forward approaching moves. You got a nice, well-rounded, versatile group of tools, right? Um, Generally, the idea behind that is that if you have all these tools that conveniently work at differing, positions and that do different things, no matter what situation you're getting into, you've kind of got a tool to solve it.
Yeah,
Um,
it might not be like the best in class. You might not rush down like a
yeah,
rush
yeah,
down. You might not grapple like a grappler. You might not zone like a zoner, but you got something for everything.
yeah. So Hyde doesn't do that at all.
Okay, good.
Um, Hyde is a mess of completely incongruent pieces that are all individually so messed up at what they're doing that you combine into a kit which is a wide spread of really, really stupid things that win games basically instantly if people don't know about them.
Okay. So
Um,
would you say that he's kind of knowledge checky then, or is it once I know? So, for example, if people watch this video, is your win rate with Hyde going to plummet, or is he
it
still
very
real?
well might.
Or is he still really strong after you know this stuff?
I do think he is genuinely still very strong after you know these things, but I do think the path to getting good with Hyde is one that is directly proportional to how good at fighting Hyde everyone else you're playing is.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. I mean, peek behind the curtain. I hopped in, I
Mm.
think yesterday, when you and Rose were grinding some matches
Yeah, yeah.
with Rachel and Hyde to prep for these lessons,
Yep.
and what I saw was, I put it this way: would you describe what I saw as you picking up wins with Hyde, or Rachel failing to beat Hyde? Does that distinction make sense?
Yeah, yeah. There is a reasonable room to doubt that it was my sheer Hyde skill that carried me to victory.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I do think there is a pretty significant amount of matchup knowledge going into Hyde. That aside, I do think he is, with his mess of really strong tools, actually a, holistically strong character at the end of the day. It's just very important that I start out, to me, by saying that, yeah, every single tool here that I'm going to talk about in more than 5 words is completely broken until the opponent knows what to do. And then it's just, like, pretty okay.
And then it's just pretty solid. Okay, sounds
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And so when we talk about like holistically strong versus really really strong tools, and maybe like an uneven toolkit, for example, and you also mentioned that you might a couple tools you might be only talking about in 5 words. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
reminding me a little bit of like Red Horizon, where
A bit.
there's like a very clear demarcation between like the good things you want to do and the things you really don't want to do at all.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
is that kind of how we're going to be approaching Hyde? Is like here are the cards that you're going to spend as force. Uh,
So, not necessarily.
okay.
Um, there are attributes of Hyde's kit um, that do lead to those sort of dynamics of, oh yeah, this card is completely worthless in my hand. I don't want to ever see it. Um, However, the way his particular eccentricities work out is that uh, those cards are also sometimes the best cards in your entire deck. And jumping ahead a little bit here, Hyde is very, very deck reliant because multiple of his cards have explicitly labeled EX attack triggers
Right.
that turn them from genuinely horrible cards into some of the strongest cards you could conceivably put on the table.
Right. So if you have the EX, it's one of the broken things that you're going for. If you don't, you might just be CCing it away, or you
Yep.
have a really tough decision to make about whether you're holding for the EX or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Got
And
it.
there are some ways to cheat and scoot around that and make those cards like still plenty fine even without those EX pairs. But yeah, not to
Okay.
get too far ahead.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean,
Deck order
this
reliant.
also kind of lines up with what I've heard in other lessons about Undernight in general as a season, where like deck reliance means that you're often going to be kind of just like CCing a lot and playing a lot of hand mini games to get the
Yeah,
cards
yeah.
you actually need in the situation that you need it, because your ability to actually play neutral on the board is a little bit more limited.
Yeah. We'll talk about the CC action. Don't worry.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, but let's get into it then. So
Yeah,
tell me a little bit about, yeah, wherever you want to start. Basically, tell me
yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit about Hyde.
So I need you. I'm going to present you a little journey, right? A little experience. Okay. You've just gone to the gym. It's your first day at the gym. You don't do that pump and iron stuff. You're a little
I'm an
nerd
Exceed
boy.
player.
Yeah, you're an exceed, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you get in there and you go on the treadmill. And you're walking at about 2 miles per hour, very very confident that you'll get to that 1 mile mark in 30 minutes, right?
Okay.
And you notice while you're very slowly walking on this treadmill, um, someone else has entered the gym, and he's 7 foot tall and about 400 pounds of pure muscle. And he
Okay.
walks up to you while you're on this treadmill, and without missing a beat, slaps you off of it, knocks you on the floor, and then starts walking on your treadmill without changing any of the settings.
Okay.
You go to be like, "Why'd you do that, man?" And he's like, "Oh, sorry, didn't see you there." This is
Okay.
Hyde.
This is
Um,
Hyde.
Hyde is a giant gym jock who shoves your stupid ass off the treadmill, not out of malice, but because he was about to use it, and it's just way faster for him to just walk to the first one he sees,
It's
right?
an expedient, and he wasn't super paying
Yeah,
attention to the fact that you were using it, or he didn't care.
yeah. He is an ignorant piece of shit. He lets it dangle, and frankly, if he's living in his world, there's not much you can do about that.
Okay. Okay. Because he's 7 feet tall.
Yeah, he's 7 feet tall, as you can see on the art. 7 feet tall,
Yep.
400 pounds of muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
About a foot and a half of it is just the hair.
yeah, 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 yeah. And the sword, I think, is about 300 of those pounds.
Sure. Fair enough.
Um,
Yeah.
so the first thing we should probably talk about with Hyde is the part that makes him so unbelievably ignorant when he wants to be, and that is actually his exceed side. So
Okay.
we'll talk about the front side of Hyde in a bit, but the exceed side is a really, really important thing. For one gauge, as an action, you can strike with another card from your gauge face up. So this is a 2 gauge buy-in. You need to have 1 gauge and also the card that you're playing from your gauge.
Right.
But what you get for that is +3 power and some other text that mostly doesn't matter.
Okay.
+3 power is a lot of power.
Yeah, that's an exceed number at now strike
Yeah.
speed. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. I don't know like how much, because I haven't seen any of the other episodes. I don't know how much it's just been stressed, like the basics of +3 power is way too much power.
Yeah, so I mean to catch people up, if this is also their first lesson, the way it is for Aevusonian, one of the first things we did on this series was have D tell me a little bit about Akuma. And the difference between +2 power and +3 power, his front side critical ability and his exceed side critical ability, is not 1 power. It's actually
Yes,
a lot more than that.
it is so many interactions that you buy.
Yeah, so I mean, if just on looking at the normals alone, I don't know what Hyde has. I didn't look. Assault with +3 power stuns sweep on curve.
Yeah, what are they going to do about that?
Yeah, that's not allowed. You're at that point. You're overturning sort of like ironclad ish strike interactions and exceed. That's a really crazy amount of power you can just put on something at now strike speed.
Yeah. So like like you're saying, just looking at the normals, Grasp is now dealing 6 damage on curve. There's not much the opponent can deal or do about that. And unlike Akuma, very notable difference. Akuma, when he puts +3 power on Grasp, it's kind of a call out, or he has some other power boost in play that makes it, much more than 6 total
Totally
power.
unstoppable. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're throwing a 6 power Grasp face up, it is a lot more, punishing if the opponent is also getting that +3 power and they play a sweep, right?
Sure.
6 to 9 trade. That's fairly that's reasonable.
The reason we're talking about the opponent getting extra power, by the way, is because if you haven't seen it, Akuma's character ability says both players have. Hyde's does not.
Yes. Hyde is completely one-sided, and at the mere cost of playing a card face up. Playing a card face up, not really being a cost when you're playing attacks that simply don't lose. Again, Grasp, 6 power Grasp, what are they going to do? Play Sweep and trade into it, and you both take 6? Oh well, we traded even.
Yeah,
that's my worst case scenario.
And you used up notable card Grasp.
Yeah, absolutely.
Notable damage dealer Grasp from your gauge, which means you already probably hit with it. Mm-hmm. Your opponent used up one of the best cards ever printed in Exceed.
Then we get to some stuff like Assault at range 3. Okay, what are my worst case scenarios? My opponent crosses out and I lose effectively 2 gauge. That's kind of sad, but they burn cross.
Right.
We'll get to why that's important. Second worst case scenario, they played Focus and they take 5 damage and I take 4 and it's my turn again.
Yeah. Could be worse.
Again, one of the best cards in Exceed, Focus.
Yeah. Famous for being absolutely overtuned as a normal. It's got the most numbers of any normal.
It's got so many numbers. And then outside of the on-curve stuff, of course, Cross, also very good, but Cross has a very relevant purpose in this kit, so you probably won't be striking with him face up as much as you might otherwise expect. Sweep. 9 power sweep.
Sure.
If the opponent's in the corner, again, what do they do? Dive over you? Worst case scenario, they null the strike?
Right. And so obviously, like when you're striking face up, you have most things that you're throwing have like a loss case globally across your opponent's deck.
Yes.
Dive can beat sweep even when sweep is cornering you and it's face up, so they know it's coming. But like, in the long term, they might have run out of dives. B, in the short term, they might just not have a dive. And those are both very relevant, like, okay, if you don't have this specific thing take 9 damage, it's like a game-winning interaction on your end.
Absolutely. That is 1/3 of their life bar. Gone.
Yeah.
Instantly. You won a third of the game instantly for playing 1 strike, which required no prior setup other than having sweep in your gauge.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So this is point well made. This is ridiculous.
Yes. So you touched on it a little bit, but there are 2 main things outside of just haha, I threw a +3 power and you die. There are 2 main things that this Exceed mode does really, really well. And number 1 is just forcing the opponent to have it, as you said. real consideration that if the opponent doesn't have a character-specific answer to dive in the corner, sweep. There are only 2 out of 30 cards in their deck, more or less, that can actually beat the card that you're playing.
Right.
Just make them have it. They
Right.
statistically they don't.
Sure.
The other part is the kind of other end of that, which is that as you're getting lower in deck sizes, they simply don't have it. If they have used both of their dives earlier in the game, that means they do not have dive, and thus your sweep is completely and utterly free. They might be able to, eke out some damage in return. Maybe they play a grasp and you take 3. But because the deck sizes are low enough, their pool of options gets a lot more limited. And because you are able to throw this plus D power on things that demand hyper-specific answers that are limited in number, eventually you can just see, okay, yeah, there is literally nothing left to do.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. So at some point it will probably be literally guaranteed. At other points throughout the game, it will only be mostly guaranteed.
Yeah.
And
You are playing the odds.
yeah, and your loss case for a lot of these situations, yeah, okay, if my opponent literally has the specific thing that beats my card, that sucks. And I just wasted 2 gauge. I'm going to skip ahead in what I assume is going to be the next thing that we talk about in this lesson. How's Hyde's gauge generation?
So if you look at the second half of Hyde's card, the succeed side here, the bottom text there is shared with all Under Night characters. Action: add a card from your hand to your gauge to revert, and then take another action.
Right.
So if you're on Exceed side, which, if you look at the front side, costs 1 gauge to flip over. Okay, well, you spent 1 gauge, and now you're spending 1 gauge to go back to the other side. Whatever. Trade out 1 gauge. That would be what I would say if this wasn't actually one of the strongest parts of Hyde's entire kit, which is that he can gauge anything he wants on demand, basically whenever.
Right.
Or a combination of 2 traits. 3. The first is this, the action to add a card from your hand to gauge to revert. The second is probably the least important one. The boost on focus in the Under Night normals is Veil Off. You can exceed for free, put that in your gauge, which, that's plus 1 gauge, and then on the next turn, if you want to revert to put something else in, you get to take another action, 2 gauge. And then finally, the big boy of them all, the thing that says, all right, no more playing around. Void Red lets you take your backside revert action, but in reverse. Instead of, the cost being that you revert, not only do you get to add this to your gauge, you also get to exceed, and you still get to take another action.
So, another peek behind the curtain for folks. A couple of days ago, Aevusonian posted a screenshot in Breakfast Club of a turn 1 Hyde board state where he had an empty hand and I think 5 gauge.
Yes. So a thing that you can do, and this is not especially practical, so I'm not going to talk about this too much past this. Because of a combination of these things, if you have 2 gyro vortexes in your hand and you go first, you can begin by using Void Red. You exceed. Add a card from your hand to gauge, let's say the Salt, revert. Play your second copy of Void Red, exceeding. Add another copy from your hand to gauge, revert. You're on front side with 4 gauge, 2 of which are Void Reds, and the other are your other 2 cards. And then you can finally take Hyde's last tool for getting cards in his gauge, because he has a third one. His frontside action allows him to move 1 and add a card from his hand to gauge.
That's too much gauge, Aevusonian.
Yeah, so...
I'm cutting you off.
No, I need it all. I need all of this gauge. I swear.
You have a problem. So we have this button over here that you can push basically any time to exceed and get fuel in your gauge.
Oh yeah.
And when I say fuel, I mean unless you're going to contradict me later on and say that this is practical to strike with from your gauge sometimes, which it might be. But this is Void Red seems like something that you are putting into gauge to have something to pay this cost with.
Sometimes.
And then you have the revert action to stock options you want to strike with in your gauge. Is that dichotomy kind of true?
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
There are a couple... Let's talk about Void Red a little bit more in depth, because, oh my god, this boost is formative to the character.
Sure.
One potential issue, you're on front side as Hyde, and you're at range 3, you have this Assault engage, and you really wish you were on Exceed side, so you could throw that, unbeatable 7 power Assault. Normally it would take an action to flip over, either with Veil off or to manually pay the 1 gauge to exceed. Not with Void Red. You see the board state is great for a card in your gauge. Turn this card sideways, flip over. You have this if you had no other gauge to spend for the ability, and then strike with your face-up assault. The opponent had no way to react to that other than just knowing that you have an assault in your gauge and you hypothetically could have Void Red in your hand.
Right. So in terms of what this does to your opponent's play patterns is like if you have an assault in your gauge and they haven't seen both copies of Void Red go down yet. They just kind of can't stand at range 3.
Pretty much, yeah. If they pass
unless
turn to
they
you
have
at
like a
range 3,
specific
or range
answer
3.
ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. You just make them have it. Either they have it or they get the hell off your treadmill.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that is layer 1 of Void Red. Layer 2 of Void Red is the fact that, oh yeah, it's actually like +3 gauge in disguise, if you want it to be. Because if you're, let's say, on front side, Void Red, revert, add a card from your hand to gauge, you've just generated 3 gauge. Why is that useful? Gyro Vortex costs 3 gauge.
Right.
Meaning, if you have both copies of Gyro Vortex, and once again, let's say you're at range 3, or, well, 2 or 4 and you want to move into range 3, you can just immediately from 0 gauge threaten this Ultra, which is kind of relevant. The fact that you can, manifest 3 gauge out of thin air.
Sure. Yeah, all at once. And so when a second ago when you said like that this isn't particularly practical, you were talking specifically about the
dump full hand into gauge.
Void Red revert until you completely run out of gauge.
Yep.
But the thing that you're talking about now, this like sort of extremely opportunistic, the situation is right, the board state is right. Those are all of the preconditions I need. Let's rumble. That's pretty practical.
Yeah. Similarly, if you're on backside, you don't even need to take the action to get the 3rd gauge. You can add a card from hand to gauge to revert, Void Red, add a card from hand to gauge, revert. Now it is still your turn. You went from 0 to 3 gauge.
Right.
Basically, what this means is that all of your gauge costs are giant myths. They're unlike a lot of other Exceed characters where you look at their ultras and you're like, okay, they don't have enough gauge to play that right now.
Right.
That concept is foreign to Hyde. If there is a gauge cost that needs to be paid, chances are Hyde can in fact just decide he can pay it.
Okay. That makes sense. And I mean, everything that we're talking about here is predicated on it being Hyde's turn. Hyde's action, both sides are the revert action or his front side or Exceed side ability all require an action. These are boosts. You can only play boosts on your turn.
Yep.
So he's a battery, but only when it's his turn to actually play the game.
Yeah, if he's passed turn into you and he doesn't have the 3 gauge on hand, throw your spikes. He's not going to gyro vortex you.
Sure.
But yeah, important to note that Void Red does all of these things by manner of existing, and doesn't even have to be boosted to actually do this because once again, the gauge costs can just they can just spawn out of nowhere because this is in his hand. He doesn't actually have to have represented this. He doesn't have to have flipped using it. He can just use it. It's free. It costs 0 force, and it's on a card that you probably don't play very often, but can.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. So that already is incredibly messed up, especially given what we were just talking about how scary his gauge enabled strikes are. Yeah.
So let's talk about what happens if you don't need to manifest 3 gauge instantly. Every single turn you get to manifest a gauge for free. And in fact, you even get a little bit of compensation for doing it because this front side reads, action, close or retreat 1, you may strike with a card from your hand face up. If you do not, add a card from your hand to gauge. I'm not quite sure why this is written in the order that it is, because that implies that the default state of using this action is that you close or retreat 1 and then strike with a card from your hand face up.
Right.
No, if you're taking this action, solid 90% of the time, it's because you want to just get a card in your gauge and also move 1 for free.
Sure.
Very convenient movement ability.
Like, move and strike is a pretty strong ability, right? Like, we have Mix-Up over here, which is, like, that is that thing. We have Ulrich from back in Red Horizon, like, that's a big part of his identity.
Yeah,
but I have better things to do with my turn because I can build gauge and be really scary with gauge, but also striking face up when I don't have a ton of bonus power doesn't really seem that appealing.
Yeah. It's pretty great when you have +3 power, but otherwise, eh. Um, there are some other limitations to this ability that make striking with face up even less appealing in a lot of circumstances. Notably, you'll see that it says you may strike with a card from your hand face up. That
Mm.
explicitly means you cannot set an EX pair.
You can't
Um,
EX. Okay.
yeah. Um, this also means that because this is an action to do this, you can't combine it with several of your other effects that are like now strike, such as the boost on sweep, just
Sure.
defend, or just defense. You can't combine it with reading. Uh, this is move one and strike face up, uh, and literally only that.
Right.
Um, there are cases where this is useful. Once again, Hyde comes from the school of make them have it. Um, if they simply do not have an answer to your face up sweep, even if it's only 6 power, and their best thing is to grasp it, you're still winning that strike.
Right.
And if moving to range 1 is what it took for you to not be threatened by the spike that you know they have, perhaps, um, seems like a worthy enough turn to me.
Okay. Makes sense. So honestly, like, if your opponent isn't making you do something else, a very good use of your turn can just be like going back and forth like this and rubbing your feet on the carpet really hard and building up static charge and putting
Sometimes.
important things in your gauge.
Yeah, that is sometimes the right thing to do, especially against characters who are a lot more range sensitive. Sometimes, if I can move these specials off the table,
Sure.
let's say Ryu is completely non-functional unless he's at range 3. We can do this little dance where I go here and I generate a gauge, and Ryu's like, "Oh man, I'm not at range 3. All right, I guess I gotta go here." I go, "All right, well, another free gauge for me." And
Right.
Ryu's, "Aw, dang it." This is a real interaction that can take place. Generally, this isn't what actually happens, because most Exceed characters are more functional than to fall apart the moment they get outside of their favored range.
Right.
Um, Most Exceed characters have tools to get them back into their favored range and also do things if they are that sensitive to it. Um, so the actual scenario where you get to shimmy across the board and generate free gauge is less common than it might sound, especially if you're used to playing a character like M. Bison, who does a kind of similar thing when he wants to, where he just fabricates gauge out of thin air for his turn, and that's all he does. He just sits
Right.
there doing that. Um, Unlike M. Bison, you aren't explicitly making your shapes more powerful when you do this, because M. Bison has a lot of very, very strong cards when you spend gauge on them. Hyde does as well, but only when it's his turn and initiating, and it's only the specific cards in his gauge. So there's a bit of a forecast going on.
Sure, yeah,
Um,
and you're passing your turn by doing the gauge generation on M. Bison. Hey, his
yep,
criticals can be super relevant on defense as well. On Hyde, it's
absolutely, yeah.
like, well, you're giving your opponent a chance to punch you.
Yeah, yeah. So actually doing the play as passively as possible Hyde thing is not super common, but it does come up on occasion.
Okay, if you
Um,
want more of that kind of play pattern, you probably look at like Carmine.
Yeah, yeah. That is a character who would be much more rewarded for doing something like that. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
In general, I do think Hyde gets kind of lacking rewards for playing as lame as possible. Um, I do think you do have to take more proactive turns with this character because, as mentioned before, his kit is really, really jank, um, and lacks proper answers a lot of the time. So by being really cagey and not, trying to spend your resources proactively, you will usually get boxed in and not be able to really take the game back from there. So passing your turns constantly to generate gauge, not what you want to do, but it is a really convenient thing that he has in the kit, especially if you need some of these cards engaged. Like maybe you're fighting a character who likes being at range 1, and you would really, really like this grasp engage to be like, all right, if you come to range 1 though, I'm gonna smack you real hard.
Right.
Um, but actually getting there to play the grasp is scary. Yeah, you can just get it in for free.
Right. Okay. No, that makes sense. So like the thing that you were saying a second ago about like Hyde having sort of a bad kit and not a lot of answers to leverage if he gets caught off guard. I guess
Mhm.
the natural thing that Hyde is going to do in order to shore up that weakness is it doesn't really matter if he loses a couple of strikes because he can do this and
Yeah,
win back several strikes worth of value all at once if you ever give him an opening.
Yep.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you're, cleanly beating me for a couple strikes. Hyde will get the gauge. There is no way to like box him out of that entirely, and he will be able to strike with a card from his gauge if he wants to.
Okay.
It might not always be the correct play, but he can definitely do it.
Terrifying.
Yeah. I hope you. We haven't even talked about a single card in his kit other than his character card in Void Red, but I
Right.
hope you're really feeling the pressure that Hyde exhibits because of his 7 foot tall, 400-pound physique.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I'm going to give him my treadmill.
Yeah, you better get off that treadmill.
So shall
Okay.
we get into the
Yeah.
actual kit?
Yeah. Let's talk about the specials because that is where this all starts to come together and fall apart at the same time.
Sounds good.
Um, First, let's talk about probably the dumbest special that he has. Um, that's Vacant Shift. So the reason this is Hyde's dumbest special is because it has the number 6 on the speed there and the number 5 on the power there. There's a lot of other text on this card. You can ignore most of it. If this is in your gauge at range 1, you can strike with a 1/8/6. That is 8 power at 6 speed. The only answer that could possibly have is Grasp or perhaps EX Cross from the normals, or maybe even Block. Honestly, I'm not sure you want to block this, and that is 8 power. You're spending 3 force, and that text there is actually a little relevant. It says draw 1 on it. So even when you block it, he's getting a little bit of econ back. This card is frankly ridiculous. I will, while we're talking about the boost kit, I am going to mention the fact that you have Vacant Shift several times. Please keep note of the fact that you have Vacant Shift in this kit.
Right.
This is just a raw, extremely powerful stat line that carries so many different attributes so well.
So it honestly, like the way that you're talking about it sounds kind of like the way people talk about like Axe Kick on Ken or Yozansen on Baiken, where like it's very receptive to basically anything you do with it to make it stronger.
Absolutely, and you have a whole kit full of things that make this card stronger.
Okay, I'm also noticing that we have this this after Advance or Retreat too.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel
Let's
like you
not
probably
talk about that.
Yeah, no, please do. I won't steal your lunch.
Yeah. So there's one of my favorite cards in the game is called Sealing Strike. It's on Satoshi.
Yeah, I know.
It's a card with a really bad. It's a card with a really bad stat line, but it's 6 speed and it says after move 2.
Yeah,
that's freaking awesome. Because what are you gonna do with that effect? Well, let's say we're at range 3, right? And you strike into me, and I'm like, oh, geez, Gearface is threatened something really scary right now. Oh man, his assault is like gonna be 6 power. I don't know if I want to trade with that. The humble Vacant Shift is here to relieve your burdens. As simply play Vacant Shift at any range that isn't literally 1, and it is the safest card in the universe. If you don't want the opponent to hit you, they don't hit you.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of range band do you need to be able to dodge? Because you can't call it out, right? It's not like a cross counter. You can't say like, I'm going to throw my projectile because I know you're going to back up into it. Instead, you just advance.
Yeah, and a decent number of cross counters are not even going to be able to catch this if you're hitting with it as well, because this thing hits for 5 and usually
because it breaks
more.
through it. Sure.
Yeah.
So like at range 3 in particular, though, you would basically literally need like a range 1 to 5 card.
Yeah, absolutely. A 1 to 5 card that also, is actually punishing enough for it to matter that you caught him with it.
Right. So it's an awesome haymaker for when you can get it in your gauge. It's a great way to put to generate value by putting other boosts on it. It's also just a really, really strong dodge.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about the part where it's just a really, really good card by itself. You don't need to do all these antics.
Right.
1/5/6 after move 2, even if you were intentionally hitting with it, this thing has a fantastic profile. Once again, Lost Case, Grasp, that will cleanly beat it at range 1. However, every single other normal, initiating with Vacant Shift, Cross dies, Assault dies, Dive dies, Spike dies, Sweep trades only up by 1, and you draw back the card.
Right.
So, not a huge deal. And focus actually doesn't even manage to trade with it because you get to retreat too.
Because you just get away from it, right?
Range.
And
yeah.
by hitting with it, you're putting it in your gauge, and that means you can hit with it again later on with your exceed ability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Literally every aspect of this attack is just fantastic. It is hard to find a fault with this card. It is simply that good. There is basically not a single range where playing it isn't at least sometimes viable. Like even sometimes you're at range 6. The opponent's, hucking fireballs at you. All right, cool. I get to move 2 with it. It's not a great use of the card, but it is another function that it can successfully serve.
But if you're up against New 13 and suddenly everybody turns into Zangief and they're like, what's my fastest move forward option? This one's pretty fast.
This one's pretty darn fast, yeah. And it's pretty great at evading, the kind of narrow range profiles that New might be threatening.
Sure. Or even just making up ground.
Yep.
All right, so that's
moving 2 on a 6-speed attack.
That's extremely, extremely, extremely good. You mentioned that we'll be coming back to it a few times. Should we just go through the specials attack by attack, or should we talk about the different ways you can make this scary, and that's a way to talk about the boosts?
I think we should cover the rest of the specials first.
Okay. But yeah, so
the boosts
viewer, keep in mind that Vacant Shift exists.
Yep. Vacant Shift is here. This is your really, really dumb card. So normally when you say that about the character, that's like the talking point of, okay, yeah, this is their defining card.
Sure.
For Hyde, that's not necessarily the case, because he has another really, 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 really dumb special. Right beside Vacant Shift. Here's Black Orbiter, also known as Pizza. Yeah, it looks like he's hucking a pizza there, kind of. I don't know.
I'm down with it.
Weird,
I'm all right with that.
All right, so Black Orbiter, you might notice has after move 2 as the after text, which is a pretty great sign that you're doing something right in this kit, apparently.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, this one's closed or retreat 2, so you can't dodge past the opponent, but like if you look at the range band, that's not going to come up frequently as this hits 3-6, where you're not really advancing past the opponent all that often.
Right.
So why is this card so good? If you look at it in the first place, 3-6, 4-4 is like the most average fireball shape of all time. Notable for being fairly hard to contest, unless you have, a dedicated fast dive or anti-fireball tool. 3-6, 4-4, just at range 4, round start position, not much you can do about that.
Yeah, it's part of your move, don't move mix up with dive, but it's not that crazy.
Yep. You just gotta hold it if the opponent's chucking this at you, right?
Yeah. I'm pulling out a comparison card while you're talking. Don't mind me.
Yeah. Sounds good. So the stat line by itself is fairly underwhelming. It has after move 2 on it, which is actually pretty relevant. If the opponent, let's say, has a slow option that hits 1-4, like a Tatsu, like Ryu's Tatsu, you can actually safely duck out of the way of it with this if you're chucking it at range 4. You just retreat 2 and Ryu whiffs, and you hit at range 4. This is the real reason why this card is really, really, really stupid. Allow me to demonstrate a real line that can happen, and will probably happen in several Hyde games until the end of time. All right. Ryu versus Hyde. Hyde takes first turn. Hyde is going to play Black Orbiter. He's going to set it face down. No need to do anything special. Ryu is in an awkward spot. If he thinks this is Black Orbiter, his best play is probably something like block or maybe Tatsu to get ground.
Tatsu to get ground, right.
Yeah. He has no gauge.
Can't Hado it.
Yep. Can't beat it with Hado. All right, Hyde is throwing his Black Orbiter. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, that Ryu was not able to mulligan for his Tatsu.
Sure.
All right, Black Orbiter connects. Hit range 4, gain advantage. Retreat 2. All right, Ryu's taken 4. Okay, Hyde's turn again because he just gained advantage. All right, Hyde has Black Orbiter engage. Hyde turns Void Red sideways.
Yeah.
Hyde is now exceeded with Void Red and Black Orbiter engage.
Take 7.
Take 7, buddy!
Yeah.
You just lost 11 life without getting to take a turn.
Yeah.
Yep. And this doesn't happen. This doesn't have to happen from starting board positions. It can happen just about anywhere.
Literally anytime you're at range 4.
Yeah. Anytime you're at range 4, you just have to accept that. Yeah, Hyde can just hit you for 11, and there's literally nothing you can do about it outside of.
And I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say that Ryu is privileged because he has a Tatsu. There's plenty of people with guarded advancing options or guarded projectiles or fast projectiles, something that can deal with this. But not everybody does.
Yeah. It is also relevant that Tatsu doesn't actually even save Hyde, or doesn't even save Ryu in this instance. Black Orbiter connects, Hyde retreats, Ryu closes 2, or advances 2 because of his Tatsu. It is now Hyde's turn. Ryu still has no gauge, and so still doesn't have access to the Hado to beat this.
True.
All right, take 7, and cherry on top, this time, Ryu, it's my advantage.
Right. Because
And you know what I'm going to do
you
with that
had the
advantage?
gall
Here's
of
my second
you had the
copy.
gall of trying to chase me with Tatsu. Now I get to take another turn after I hit with the second orbiter advantage.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I actually said that Ryu's best option here might be just a block.
Block.
Because if you
Yeah.
block, you have 1 gauge, so you can
You can
threaten
at
your
least Hado
crit
back.
auto.
Sure.
Yep, yep.
So the card I pulled out is Tandem Top from Milia's kit.
Yeah, yeah.
And like the point of comparison here, like they don't actually look that similar except for the you may advance or retreat to line. Like
Yep.
Tandem Top's got guard, they've got different range bands. First of all, this is an incredibly strong projectile. It's a really,
Oh, yeah.
really core part of Milia's kit. There are a ton of things that this does. It draws you 2 cards. It might draw you more cards because you're Milia.
Mhm.
It can stay in place. It has guard. It might have a more relevant range band sometimes. I feel like the point of comparison so strongly favors Tandem Top here that you forget that you can just hit with this for 7. Like
Immediately after hitting it. Yep.
yeah, like what if Tandem Top was worse in some ways but hit for 7? Is
Not just 7. 11.
yeah, sure,
Don't
yeah, no,
forget the
yeah.
initial 4
What if
damage. Yep, yep,
you
yep.
do it twice? That is like like go again. I'm not saying that the stat line on its own is as good as Tandem Top, but go watch
Yep,
Familia Lesson sometime and see how good just a 4-speed projectile that can move you is,
yep.
and then add on another 7 power on top of it,
Yeah.
8 power on top of it. That's so messed up.
Oh, yeah. So Black Orbiter, it's a good thing you pulled out this card specifically because Black Orbiter does have one notable point of awkwardness for Hyde.
Oh,
Which is if you're
is it?
throwing this,
There's no May.
yeah, there is no May. So if you're throwing this at range 4 and you don't actually have the Void Red in hand, or maybe the opponent has like a known answer, like a fast dive that'll cover you if you get cheeky and throw one face up. Um, if you throw this, uh, you kind of have an awkward spot where you either have to go to range 2, which is not an amazing range for Hyde. It has some good properties, or range 6, which is decidedly a useless range for Hyde, other than throwing your Black Orbiters.
Right.
Um, so in the case where you don't have another Black Orbiter or the Void Red to immediately turn this into damage, this after movement is actually pretty awkward to use.
Right. Okay. So we'll put that in the negative column.
Yep.
And then we'll put damage 11 times in the positive column, and we'll at the end of the lesson we'll see how we feel about this card for real, but it's too
Yep.
close to tell right now.
So there are still more properties about Black Orbiter
Okay.
that make this actually a very good card. It is a completely functional range 3 mid speed.
Sure. Yeah.
In fact, just about as good as Dive.
It's Sepultura on Giovanna.
Yeah. Yep, yep,
It's
yep.
a 4-speed 3 range, back up a little bit, move forward a little bit, you dodge a spike.
Yeah, this is a perfectly functional mid speed at range 3. It only hits for 4, which is a little sad, but you cleanly beat just about every slow in existence. Spike can't beat you. You beat offensive dive, which is pretty great for a range 3 mid speed. A lot
Sure.
of the time, dive will cover those because a lot of them are going to be 3 speed.
And you're still stocking Orbiter in your gauge.
And you're still getting Orbiter engaged, and guess what? I'm back at range 5. Or, sometimes you go back to range 1 because you have relevant cards to threaten.
Sure.
Yeah. Perfectly functional at range 3. And would you believe me if I said, oh yeah, there's one more range where it's actually pretty good? It exists at range 2. This card does have a very relevant property of, once again, it says after move 2. You dodge every slow in existence when you play this at range 2. You aren't normally going to play this from your hand for that purpose. But sometimes you just wild swing it.
Sure.
This is actually a pretty great wild swing, even when it doesn't hit. Like the number of it really mitigates your worst case scenarios when you wild swing it. Because, worst case scenario is going to be eating the sweep. It's a lot more fine if you eat like 3 damage from a cross or something that beats it, right?
Yeah.
So even at range 2, this card still does things. Range 1, yeah, no, you know, SOL, Black Orbiter's not helping either.
We'll
Sorry.
just have to settle for the other ranges of the game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All of the other relevant ranges where it's really, really good.
So there's another really good property about this card, and that's that you're Hyde, which not only can you hit for 7 with this, you also have this front side ability. And I was being a little facetious earlier when you said you don't really use this to strike face up. I'm at range 3. It's time to use my front side ability to retreat 1. I will strike the Black Orbiter face up. Shake my hand.
Hold it. Deal with it.
And I'll gain advantage, and you best bet I have Void Red in hand. This card gains advantage from, or has the threat of gaining advantage from more ranges than just the presented one. You can be throwing a Black Orbiter that gains advantage into Void Red +3 power Black Orbiter from anywhere from ranges 3 to 5.
And
if at the low cost of throwing it face up,
yeah, and if you're not like, all right, so my opponent crosses out of the Black Orbiter, except no, they don't, because it's a projectile. So like it is really like, it's not this, right? It's not the you need to hold all this damage if you don't have the answer. It's more like you need to hold all this damage coming at you next turn if you don't have the exact answer. It's still just as threatening. It's just one turn delayed from the obvious face-up Hyde threat.
Yeah. And what if I told you that it's even more threatening than that? As within this kit, on Vacant Shift, the forbidden card to boost, that this card is so good, why would you ever boost it? Well, perhaps it's to give your opponent a free 11 damage smack to the face. Let's say we're range 2. All right, I'm going to double jump. This is quick step. Move 1, take another action.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to retreat 1. I'm going to use my action to retreat 1 and set this face up.
For orbit.
All right, I just slammed this at you from range 2. You know, I'm going to gain advantage and hit you for 7 next turn as well with my advantage.
Yep. So yeah, so the thing, this is when you saying like this is where things come together. Like when you were talking a second ago about Void Red being like, if you have it in your hand, GG, kind of.
Yeah.
Now we're starting to see like, okay, is there an opportunity anywhere in your hand to hit with Orbiter? Probably yes. First of all, like there probably is a way to do it if you're at range 3. There's probably a way to do it if you're at range 2. Like, you don't actually need incredibly specific, difficult to achieve board states to be able to do this unreactable Void Red combo.
Yep.
Awesome.
Now this is all hinging on the opponent not having a specific, matchup tool to deal with it. A lot of characters will have anti-fireball measures. Sure. A lot of characters will have, speed 5 options at range 4.
Even just an empty assault, right?
Yeah, empty assault will cover it. That being said, this all comes back to what I said earlier about Hyde, which is that your goal is to establish one of 2 conditions. 1, they simply don't have it. You throw it and they don't have it and you win. 2, it's the end of their deck and they've used it. Now it is completely free. So yes, this is kind of Magic Christmas Land where Hyde can, just freely be here and chuck this la-di-da-di-da, throw another one. But it is a magical Christmas Land with a big shining sign on it, or hanging above it, where you can see the calendar, and it's just a week away from Christmas. Right?
Yeah. It's not so far out of reach that it's unthinkable and we shouldn't be talking about it in the guide. And also, there are a lot of things that require setup in Exceed. It's a game where you're allocating resources to specific outcomes because that's how you win. And it turns out that allocating resources towards something that's slightly hard to achieve when you can hit for +3 power is that's worth doing.
Yeah.
So if you have the ability to make one thing in your deck Magical Christmas Land, maybe have it be this because that's what your resources are going towards.
Yep. And there are some characters where this is just everything I just said is just true 100% of the time, and there's just no answer that they have.
Right.
That can just happen, and you just get to look smugly across the table and be like, "Yeah, I want it matched, or I want it character select."
Yeah. Shake my hand. GG. No re.
Yeah. it's pretty messed up. That is the takeaway you should have on Black Orbiter.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So we've got 2 ridiculous cards so far.
Yeah. So let's talk about the most ridiculous card in your deck,
Okay.
which is not Red Clad Craver. It is 2 copies of Red Clad Craver.
Right.
This card is absolutely horrible. I don't know if you need me to tell you that. 145 with no text is hilariously bad.
Yeah,
There is no
this
good
is an unbelievably with no mid speed properties, no fast properties. This is not a card.
Yeah, so it actually does have some pretty cool mid-speed properties. 145 as a shape is really bad by itself, but when you throw it with +3 power, this is Tager Driver.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's
Notably
real.
good card. And once again, this is a make them have it thing. They either have the grasp or they have the cross in this case, or they take 7.
Right.
Pretty similar to Vacant Shift, just worse at doing its job. But sometimes you need to boost double jump. Sometimes you have the Red Clad Craver engage. Sometimes 175 will suffice. It's not like Exceed is a game where you have to play the absolute best card in your deck for a situation. As long as something is doing the job sufficiently, you can keep on playing the game, right?
Yep. Definitely.
And sometimes that's what you need to break through an opponent's defensive sweep. Right. So there is actually another really important part about this card, other than it being like hilariously bad, but a functional mid speed if you're on backside. If you EX this attack, it is 8 speed at range 2 and hits for 5.
Yep.
Um, Once again, you don't need to spend anything for this. This is an 8 speed attack, 2 points over curve. At range 2, notably difficult range to interact with, that hits for 5.
Yep.
5 printed, right? It also has 1 armor.
Sure.
So you trade even with sweep.
You trade even with sweep. Why not? Right.
I don't know how much more I can say to like. At range 1, this is faster than grasp on defense.
Yep.
You play this card EX, you don't lose. You might not win the strike. You might trade even to the sweep, and that is usually your opponent's best case scenario, or them blocking it is usually their best case scenario.
Sure.
Yeah, this card just simply doesn't lose.
So I was about to mention 2 things. One is that whenever I hover over this card, there's a little 3,
Yes.
indicating the number of copies I have of it.
Yeah.
So Hyde has extra copies of Craver.
Yeah, I guess that was an important thing to bring up earlier. You have 3 copies of 2 cards in your deck, both Red Clad Craver and Palebringer. There are 3 of them.
The ones that have an EX attack rider on them.
Yeah. Right. Which is very, very strange. It is a design decision that has perplexed many for ages. We still are trying to figure out why they put 2 worthless cards in your deck that only function when EX'd, and then gave you exactly 3 copies of them.
Sure.
Instead of like giving you 4, or maybe like only giving you 2 and just making the cards functional.
I'm assuming Superior, maybe?
Yeah. Superior is a very relevant thing. I will talk about once we get done with Red Clad Craver and Palebringer.
Okay.
Because these are the 2 cards that get the most out of it.
Sure. So the reason that I brought up, all right, so you have extra copies of it. You have something that like really only seems to be particularly useful at all when it's EX'd, and when it is EX'd, it's crazy. But also, we're going back to that thing you said a second ago about how there's like a disjunct between your actions here. Or I'm sorry, no, not your actions. Your the fact that it's a card from your gauge or a card from your hand.
Yeah,
you can't do this with your ability.
It's kind of interesting that the character with 2 deliberately labeled EX triggers and 3 copies of those cards in the deck has a character ability that fundamentally does not interact or work with them at all.
Right.
This is where some of that you are a mess of really strong pieces that don't fit together at all kind of comes in.
Sure.
The most generous interpretation of this is that these EX cards actually cover a decent bit of your weakness with your whole game plan A of, all right, I'm going to slam my cards on the table and you're going to take 1 billion damage.
Right.
Which is that these are really, really strong options at covering specific things, kind of those Shoto-ish tools. But that all relies on you actually having the EX copy in hand. which you do have 3 copies of these, so you are marginally more likely to get an EX of them. And
Right.
you also do have Superior in the normal set. Like I said, I'll get back to them in a second. So these EX cards are really relevant to your game plan. It's just that they're also on like an entirely different wavelength from the rest of your game plan.
Sure, yeah, you don't have the ability to like force an EX like Remulus can, for example.
Yeah.
You're not an EX character. You have really strong EX attacks as like a separate axis of your power budget.
Yeah, and that actually does extend even past these cards that have the deliberate EX triggers. Basically, all of your cards have really insane value when you EX them, which
Sure.
is a kind of neat trait, and I think is taking advantage of Superior being in the kit in a really cool way.
Right.
But again, enough about Superior. We got to talk about Red Flag Craver.
Okay.
The other really dumb thing about this card is the fact that again, I mentioned it's 5 power. It's 5 power, and you could pretty easily make that 6 or maybe 7. And a 1 to 2, 7, 8 is getting into some real uncontestable territory.
Yeah, that's
Um,
almost literally unbeatable.
yeah. Um, and there are several ways across the kit to actually deliver this power. Um, so yeah, this is not only your, omnipresent defensive option that never loses. It is also like if you can actually manage your way to get to it, your cream of the crop, pristine #1 option for delivering power boosts into the opponent's face.
Sure.
Um,
Because
Not
it's
your
good.
exceed by power boost,
It's
but
good enough to, or rather, it's fast enough to be easy to confirm on defense.
yep. And so you
So
can spend your turn just slamming these power boosts down, and then no matter what your
yeah,
opponent does, you can still
I've
confirm.
got charged attack. I've got power
Power
attack. I've
attack and
got
overpower. Yep.
overpower. I've got lots and lots of ways. I've got
Salty boost as well.
indulgence. I've got lots of ways to get power
Yep.
on this thing, and honestly, I can think of worse things to do with my power than put it on EX Graver.
Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, it genuinely a pretty simple card because of all these things. It is very straightforward in how you use it because it is the card that never loses, and also if you can afford it, kills the opponent.
Yep.
Just press it. Probably don't press a single copy of it usually. Sometimes you do need to call out specific things, and like I said, having 7 power at speed 5 on backside is like pretty relevant.
Sure.
The other partner in crime of the fabled EX duo is Palebringer, which once again is a pretty mediocre card. Way better than Red Clad Craver though.
Yeah, this has a stat line. At
144,
least this is
yeah,
dive.
144 before close 3. That's a respectable card. Like that
Sure.
calls out things. And actually, pretty great at carrying your backside power bonus. 174 before close 3. That's a really good stat line.
Yeah,
Um,
on curve, 7 damage, just like it was with assault. Maybe a slightly less relevant range at 4 than at 3, but hey, I mean, it's still 7 damage.
Yeah, and it's a little inconvenient to position for that, but like it comes up frequently enough. So having Palebringer in your gauge is actually like a pretty real thing to consider for the opponent. Where if they're standing outside of your like ideal ranges and maybe your gauge is not looking too great, just the Palebringer being there means they do have to have a contingency for you
Okay,
just being like, all right, Void Red, Palebringer 7 incoming.
fight me.
Yeah, fight me.
Okay,
And then you get to the actual good part about the card, which is that when you EX it as Ignore Guard for some reason. So this is a 5-speed, 5-power attack from ranges 1 through 4 with Ignore Guard.
yep, it
Um,
is those things.
so what do you do about that if you're the opponent? You cross out. You might play Grasp at range 1.
Yeah, that's
You can block it.
kinda. I mean, yeah,
Kind
you'll
of.
have to spend an extra card, but
Yeah.
it's an EX attack. You're okay with that.
Yeah. Um, so that's the Legend of Palebringer. Notably, now that I've talked about both of these, they actually do form a really convenient mix-up with each other. Because these attacks are both, the ones that you want to EX and the ones that you are going to probably most commonly be EXing between a combination of your boost that forces them to be EX and the fact that there are 3 copies of them in your deck.
Right.
A lot of the time, the opponent is going to assume when you set an EX attack, it's one of these.
Sure.
Which Enable's a completely self-sufficient mix-up. Red-clad Craver beats literally everything that Palebringer doesn't, and Palebringer beats literally everything that Red-clad Craver doesn't.
Right. Okay.
Um,
So we have the obvious use case of range 4 Palebringer, range 3 Palebringer EX,
mhm, mhm.
on curve, whatever you want. I win the strike for free probably. But range 1 Palebringer, as long as I have 2 copies of Craver left, is super legitimate as a way to call out like focus
Yeah, absolutely.
or sweep. Okay.
Um, the mere existence of these cards does inspire like some pretty convenient for you play patterns in the opponent. Um, as mentioned earlier, Hyde has this whole thing where he can shimmy around and generate gauge. Really relevant thing that happens with this is if you can successfully bluff, and once again, you're the big buff man. You have to just come in like you own the place.
Right.
If you successfully bluff that, oh yeah, I have this EX in hand, you just go here, and the opponent's like, oh shit,
What do I
I
do?
have it. Yeah. Um, when in reality, you might just not even have this card.
Right.
It is just about and this mostly comes in when you're playing at a higher level. This will not come up as frequently if you're not like actually playing against opponents who know what you do and know to respect your
Right.
things and know to
Nor does it
maneuver
need
around them.
to, because
Yeah,
you have +3 power on your character ability.
yeah, of course. But this is like a really relevant mind game that does come up in basically every Hyde game.
Okay.
Is the does he have it? He might not. Can I play my thing that gets blown out by Red Cloud Craver? Uh, can I afford to lose 5 life and also my like 2 gauge I spent on this strike? And you want to keep putting the opponent into those situations where
Sure.
nothing they do feels especially, you know, good because you have these 2 EXs that just win.
Sure. So they're going to spend time boosting up to try to beat the cards that you don't even have. That gives you a turn to do something productive like build gauge or
Yep, yep,
establish your own board presence or rebuild your economy or something.
absolutely.
Okay.
And with all of that said, never play these cards. Do your absolute best to not play these cards because that effect only exists as long as you haven't played these EX cards.
Sure, yeah, because that might actually be a pretty good reason why there's only 3 copies in the deck, because having done it once, you can't do it again.
Yeah, yeah. Um, you you absolutely do not want to play these cards under any circumstance unless you need to.
Right.
Because the mere existence of them is such a massive burden on the opponent's like mental load that they have to think way more about this than you do.
Yeah, it
Um,
reminds me of spinning pile driver.
yeah, yeah,
Right, like having a range 1 spike just means that your opponent needs to play differently than they normally would, and you can take advantage of that. So maybe let
yeah,
one copy of spinning pile driver go down, but don't let the other one go down. But with these, if you've done the EX attack once, you can't do it again. So don't do it at
absolutely, yeah,
all.
yep. Um,
Interesting.
so that being said, I just said don't play it ever. That is of course hyperbole.
Sure.
The times where you actually want to play this are when you are squeezing more value out of the opponent than you're actually expending. So, like, if Ryu's sitting here boosting power at me, and you know I'm in this range, and I'm like fairly confident he's about to throw a donkey kick or whatever, and he's boosted like fierce and let's say Way of the Warrior in there, so he's got +4 power, +2 speed.
Yeah.
Now is an excellent time to be playing Red Cloud Craver because I'm squeezing like 4 force and his card rather than
Right.
just
And
like making the
several
trade.
turns that he spent getting up all that value.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So you want to be squeezing multiple turns and plenty of force out of the opponent when you actually do decide to play
Sure.
these.
So, and meanwhile, on the opponent side, what you were saying about I don't want to skip ahead to counterplay, but what you were saying
Mm,
about like I don't am I sure that I want to spend the 2 gauge and 5 damage is going to take me to lose to this card? Like that
yeah,
doesn't mean don't ever attack Hyde.
yeah,
It
yeah,
means be very careful over investing in
yeah.
strikes.
Understand what you are losing by losing to that card.
Sure. And meanwhile, Hyde can probably say if he's got a good player read on his opponent, okay, this is the kind of person who is not going to throw this 3 gauge ultra when I have Craver online. I don't
Mhm.
really even need to worry about it right now. And
Yep,
that's a valuable thing that you can do.
yep.
Okay, I get you.
Um, a lot of psychology in these two cards because of that. In addition to them just being really, 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 really good when you
Right.
EX. Okay, so there are 3 copies of them in your deck, so you're slightly more likely to draw the EX. However, there is this very convenient boost that adds to this mind game. Um, Superior is a boost that's just on all the Undernight characters. It's on Cross. And this is kind of the reason why you don't really want to play Cross's Hyde. You're perfectly fine doing it. You can retreat and throw pizzas at people. Um, if this is in your gauge, you can hit for 6 with it, and generally there's very little counterplay against that. Those are
Right.
all cool traits. But this boost is so good because this boost just makes all your attacks EX. Suddenly, even if you've EX'd, 1 pair of red-clad Cravers, you still have the third one in your deck. This makes it so it's just online.
Right.
And once again, we're back to the psychology part. I go to range 2 conspicuously, like let's say I'm just shimmying over, and my opponent's like, what the heck's going on? And then I turn this sideways. Well, what do you think they have, or what do you think they think I have in my hand, right?
Right. Yeah. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, okay, I wonder if it's the thing that says EX attack on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I wonder if it's Spike.
And this is actually pretty fantastic because not only are these 2 cards gaining pretty great EX benefits, um, basically all of your specials are. EX goes a really long way in Hyde's kit. Vacant Shift. By the way, you have Vacant Shift.
I remember.
Yeah, it's a 1 power 6, or sorry, a 1 range 6 power 7 speed attack when you have it EX.
Yep.
That's a pretty good stat line.
Yep.
By the way, you have Black Orbiter. You remember how I said like characters with 5 speed, range 4 options can kind of shut down your whole shebang here?
Yep.
Yeah, Superior says no to that. And we haven't talked about this card yet, but Shadow Scare, 1 to 5 range with some defensive stats that are a little fragile and some speed that has some susceptibilities. Well, tack 1 point of stats onto that. Those are no longer problems.
Yeah, now it's the most consistent card of all time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I hope you didn't forget that you can throw a +3 power on everything. Hyde has some of the most disgustingly good 2-turn setups in the game of Exceed. Because if you're on backside and you turn Superior sideways, the opponent has to look at your gauge and be like, oh god, am I fine taking one of these with +4 power, +1 speed?
+1 speed, yeah. Jesus.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, even if you're not, you have Void Red.
Yeah, yeah.
So like
Yeah.
this with Superior, like when you put Superior down as Hyde, if you have anything at all in your gauge, it almost says like EX attack, your opponent must strike.
Yeah. More or less a lot of the time, yeah. I was playing several Hyde games the other day, and one of the people I was fighting against said like, why is this the scariest boost in the game? Every time I boosted it. Yeah. Because in conventional Exceed Wisdom, the boosts that you want to attack are like, all right, here's an Ultra Goo boost that gives you +4 speed or +2 power and +2 speed. Those are very obviously strong and scary effects.
Sure.
Superior and Hyde's kit is a lot more insidious because it does all these disgusting things, and also if you pass turn back into me, I win the game.
Yeah. I mean, also, here is a way that you can use EX Craver or EX Palebringer with your character abilities plus power.
You ever played Liar's Dice?
I've heard of it. I've never played Liar's Dice.
So the whole gimmick with the Liar's Dice is that there's a number of hidden factors, and you only know some of them, right?
Okay.
And your goal is to essentially claim how many of those hidden factors are lined up. So like, I know 6 of the dice, and you know 5 of them, and I know that I have 3 threes in my dice. I don't know what your dice are, but I bluff and say there are 5 threes. And you look at your pile, and you're like, oh shit, I have 3 threes in my pile. He's probably right.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to bluff when you have this information that the opponent can see, where you say, yeah, I have definitely one part of my red-clad Craver right here.
Right. Yeah, you're establishing the threat, and then your opponent kind of just fills in the blank for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like any good horror novel, right?
Yeah, I've boosted Superior, and I have a scary thing in my gauge. I have Void Red in my hand. You know I have Void Red in my hand.
Yeah.
And no, you don't, but they don't know that.
I don't have it at all, but they
Right.
certainly have to respect it because they lose the game if they don't.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Monstrously powerful boost in this kit. Probably your best boost, period.
Okay.
Just for a bunch of the interactions that I just mentioned. Didn't mention either of the ultras, but they also do relevant things when the X'd. All right. Last special in the kit, Shadow Scare. Um, the reason I saved this one for last is because this is deceptively probably your worst special.
Okay.
It has a couple really interesting and kind of bad properties. The first one is that this is effectively your Tatsu. Ryu has his Tatsu. This is Shadow Scare. It's your Tatsu because it moves you. It effectively moves you 2 spaces closer to the opponent, and it has
Yeah.
4 guard, and it hits from range 4. This one hits
What's
out a
the
little further out.
what's the Ken card that has custom combo boosted on it?
Knee bash.
Knee
Yeah,
bash. There you go. Yeah, it's kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
knee bash-ish.
It's a little knee bash shape, yeah. Except it does work resourceless and on defense from range 5,
There are
which are
several ways in
relative.
which it's not like knee bash. That's a really fair point.
But it is a reasonable comparison. It does pretty similar
Yeah.
things where it's like,
It's
all
catch and
right,
cross. It's
yep,
kind of an anti-projectile answer.
yep. The kind of strange thing about this card is how weirdly finicky it is, though. So we're range 4, and there are a lot of strange things that happen here. Ryu plays Hado, right? We'll just go through some general Ryu things that he can do. He plays Hado. You play Shadow Scare. You trade 4 for 4, and now you get hit by Donkey Kick.
Right.
That's not an especially good interaction.
Right.
He plays Tatsu, and you play Shadow Scare. He hits you for 5. You're stunned.
Right.
Okay. He plays Dive, and you play Shadow Scare. You're stunned.
Right.
All right. The range 4 presence of this card is not especially good.
Yeah, and
Uh,
like Ryu is particularly strong at range 4 because he's got a lot of
yeah, yeah.
options there. But like everybody's got to die.
Yep, yep.
This is something you can throw at the AI in browser exceed and lose to their defensive dive.
Yeah, I mean, this loses to sweep as well. It does beat focus for a nice clean 2 damage. Um, it can beat assaults that are coming in for your pizzas. That's pretty relevant. And it even does gain advantage against that because it has to have the text that the opponent is at range 1 after pulling them. You
Right.
gain advantage. That is a blessing and a curse. That text is so unbelievably finicky because it really does not like to work with you. Let's give a practical example, right? I'm trying to catch a cross, and this is my best cross catching option, let's say. I play it, Ryu crosses out, I pull him 2. Oh, well, I guess
Right.
we're at range 2 now, and I'm eating Donkey Kick.
I've mitigated a lost case by catching the cross and doing what
Yep.
but like I specifically called it out with my cross catcher and I
Yeah, yeah.
didn't really get what I wanted out of it.
I dedicated my strike to saying, all right, cross, I'm catching that.
Right.
And I got 1 more point of damage than my opponent did.
Right. Right. Fair.
This is kind of a slow shape, right? It's kind of tradey. So let's say you want to trade with fasts. Well, it trades up 1 into grasp, just like cross. And my opponent plays assault, right? Let's say I'm playing this as a defensive option. My opponent plays assault into me, and I hit them back for 4, and I pull them 2. They still
And
have advantage.
they gained advantage and didn't lose it. Okay, that
Yep.
is weird.
Yeah. So the kind of Ryu Tatsu interaction where Ryu's Tatsu can catch out the opponent's assault and steal the advantage from them doesn't work. And this similarly does not work on offense. If I'm playing Shadow Scare, I'm initiating with it. They're still going to duck under and they get to take the next turn,
Right.
which can be really awkward. As mentioned before, this is kind of a call out for something like assault beating your pizza. It would similarly fill the role for like if the opponent had a fast dive, a card that goes like it has like 5 speed and closes 3. Another really awkward result though, you do corner them from round start, but you didn't gain your
You
advantage.
didn't gain advantage. So it seems like it's
Yeah,
really hard to get everything out of this card, but
yeah.
it's pretty easy to get something out of it.
You usually will get something out of it. Notably, not very often on defense. You really do not want to defend with this card because its loss cases are so much more obvious.
Sure.
Spike dive, you just conveniently beat it. The opponent, like, just playing sweep into you feels monstrously bad.
Yeah.
You do have a pretty awesome win case into exactly range 1 focus, though. If you're initiating with Shadow Scare. That's pretty cool. You gotta take advantage, and it's like you played an assault. Range 1 assault, but with a little less risk in that
Yeah,
situation.
range 1 assault but with some guard on it. Like that's
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
It's neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a weirdly finicky card that does have like generally more lost cases than a lot of your other cards, which is weird to say because it doesn't have that many hard lost cases.
Right.
But it is very whelming. Okay, so what if you have it in your gauge though?
Right. I was waiting for it.
Yeah, so this card is one of the biggest winners from being in your gauge. Because mentioned before, face-up sweep is like pretty terrible to deal with for the opponent.
Right.
But they do have cross out if you're not cornering them. You can't cross out a shadow scare.
Right.
The conventional trade where you're just playing the shadow scare and trading with the cross, not too great. Only one up. What if I hit you for 7?
What if I hit you for 7 damage and pulled you back in?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm starting to like this shadow scare card
Right.
now.
Yeah, maybe this is
Yeah,
okay. Actually, pull you back in to probably range 4, maybe range 3. I wonder if I have anything I can do at range 4 or range 3 that's particularly relevant on my next turn.
I couldn't tell you. You know.
Yeah, that's fun.
Um. So Shadow Scare is a card that, as mentioned before, it is really, really receptive to boosts. Superior makes this card really, really consistent, really, really good. Being 4 speed means it actually just cleanly closes out Spike at all the ranges and also gains advantage. Even EX Spike, if you're initiating,
Yep.
it beats the dive that could normally beat it. It still has the awkward scenario with Assault, so that isn't really a better case. But against most cards, it will get the full value out of both the power and the armor, which means this is like a actual clean 2 delta. Which is not usually the case for some of your other cards you want to EX. Palebringer is not getting the benefit from the armor a lot of the time, neither is Black Orbiter or Vacant Shift. So you get a lot of value from basically all of the stats here.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, you don't super love playing this card by itself. You just do it sometimes.
You'll do
It's
it to
one of
get it
your
into your gauge for later.
Yeah, it's one of your most convenient cards if you're like if you need to like move one and you don't know what card to get rid of from your hand to use your UA on front side. Shadow Scare is usually a pretty great bet. Um, Other than that, not an especially notable card. It's not your breadwinner.
Okay.
It does have this boost though on it, which is a pretty darn good boost. +1 power before close 1. There's a lot of really cool things with your kit. To demonstrate, you now have 1 to 3, 5, 8, or sorry, 6, 8 online. This can hit out from range 5. A lot of range presence. And I don't know if you remember this, but you have Vacant Shift in the kit.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Vacant Shift, Aevusonian.
Yeah. Vacant Shift now is on curve and hits for 6 with nothing else that you need.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
And again, 2-turn setup. All right, cool.
2 turn
Yeah.
setups. All right, Vacant Shift for what? You want to take 9?
Vacant Shift for I win damage.
Yeah. Sweep now actually just catching cross and
Yep.
hitting for 10.
Okay.
Interesting. Very good boost. Not one that you boost all the time because again, this is kind of one of your more expendable cards.
Right. You
And you
will
do
often have
actually,
a force cost to pay.
yeah, and you do actually usually want to have one of these engage in late game, just as like, here's another thing that I can hold over the opponent. They have to have an answer to this, or
Right.
they lose on the spot. So that leads to a lot of prepping or boosting and different things. But you don't usually actually play it. It's just there for the thing.
Sure.
But yeah, you do want to boost this. It's very, very good, and it does all the same things that normally before close 1 does that are good for exceed characters. Dive is now basically unbeatable at range 4. Grasp is winning from range 2, is effectively a DP. Cross hitting from range 3 above curve and then ducking out of the way. Assault can hit from range 4 above curve. Sweep, beats cross. A lot of good things going on there.
And bonus power on top of it.
And bonus power on top of it, yeah. Just in case.
Sure. Just in case you didn't
Hyde
have
is
enough
really
bonus
good boost
power.
power. Yeah. Speaking of bonus power, let's talk about your 2 other power boosts. Charge attack and power attack. They say attack on them, so you know roughly what you should be doing with them. So charged attack is the weirder of the two. +2 power, when you move, add this to your gauge. You might think, oh man, I can't wait to play assault, right?
Right.
So I'll get my +2 power. No, not quite. Because you moved before you actually hit the opponent with assault. So you just don't get the power bonus. You just
Right.
generated a gauge.
It's a
Right.
before effect. Actually, question for you, Aevusonian. If I'm at
Mhm.
range 1, can I get the power bonus off of the assault? Because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not actually moving?
Yep, you didn't move. So
Okay.
you do
Even though
get the
it
power
says
bonus on
close
assault.
to. Got it. All right.
Yep. You don't get the gauge though, because it won't add it to gauge.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But there are a bunch of it also doesn't work with Palebringer as another example, or Dive.
Dive, sure.
There are a couple other cards in your kit which might be relevant for this, however. Like, you know, you can play Cross with +2 power and get an extra gauge out of it. It's pretty cool. There's this Black Orbiter card. I don't know if you heard about it. It's pretty good. Hitting
Yeah,
+6
it's
with
all right.
that and gaining advantage, and then also getting a second gauge. So when you use your Void Red next turn, you don't even need to spend the Void Red from gauge to use your ability. You can just spend the charge attack that is in there.
Sure. So you
That's pretty
have
cool.
more force in your gauge than you did before.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, did you remember that you have Fake Shift in the kit?
Nope.
That's a pretty
Missed
good
that
card.
one. That's got an
Yeah,
Esther on it.
176 that has after move. Wow.
God, yeah. Like I was being sort of flippant about, yeah, I remember Vacant Shift, and then that sort of like the weight of that sort of hit me. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, yeah. That's sure an
That's
interaction that can
that's
happen.
ludicrous. So again, really strong 2-turn setup.
It's also +5 power with your backside, another really strong part of this 2-turn setup here.
Yep.
+5 power is a lot.
It's a lot of power.
Yep.
So
Um,
all right. So this is it's not just enabling 2-turn setups, because I also do have like, hey, punch me. I've got oh no, never mind. EX Craver, they thought of that. They put
mhm.
it on the super consistent
Yep,
defensive
yep.
EX, so you can't just confirm that super easily.
This is a
Unless
pretty
you have
well
another
filtered
unless
setup.
you have all 3 copies in your hand, I guess.
Yep. Which, like, you also have some. This rarely happens in Exceed, but sometimes you do actually have these big boost wars where you're passing turn back and forth, and both of you have like 3 boosts on the field. This is a pretty unbeatable combination for
Yeah,
a lot of opponents. Like even if they boost +2 speed, a lot of the time their best option is going to be to like grasp into you at range
right.
1, and you take 2 damage because you're EX. Oh well. Um, assuming you're playing the other Red Cloud Craver. And then
Right.
against everything else, it just wins. Um, but yeah, the fact that this just turns into +5 power if the opponent gives you a turn is an exceptionally strong trait.
Right. So very similar to Superior, this kind of says like, you have to hit me right now.
Yep, yep. The other power boost that you have is a little less good at doing that. Because it's only +1 power, but it does do a couple other cool things. It gains you advantage, which is pretty neat.
Right.
Like if you once again we go back to our old friend Cross or even Grasp here. If I cross or grasp with my power attack, I go like range 3 or 4, and then either if I crossed out, I just get to play like pizza immediately afterwards because I gained advantage and gained the gauge. Or if I played the grasp, I get to use my front side UA, back up 1, throw the pizza face up. I gained advantage again. All right, here comes another 7. Right,
Right.
lot of flexibility there. Um, those are pretty relevant things. It's also just like really good value as a boost. Like even if you're playing, even if you like boost this and the opponent strikes into you and you just play like focus, you're still playing a 7 delta attack that gets you a gauge and also like denies assault from gaining
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
advantage.
you steal advantage back. Like there are the thing you were saying a second ago about like, you probably can't get everything you want out of Shadow Scare, but you can
Mhm.
get something. With this boost, it's like, yeah, all right, if I play it on defense, maybe I won't gain advantage. I'll just have to settle for adding it to gauge and extra
Yeah, yeah.
power. That's pretty
Only
good.
+1 power.
Yeah, that's pretty
Um,
good.
as a reminder, by the way, you have vacant shift in the kit.
That's true, you
Um,
do.
166, uh, after move 2, hit gain advantage and also spawn a gauge out of thin air. And after move 2, means that you just hit for 6 pretty uncontestably, and also you get to go to basically whatever range you want because you're Hyde. You can, you know, use your
You
front
can
side
back
to
up to
move
4 and throw
around.
Orbiter.
You could back up to 4 and throw Orbiter, or like if you're really valuing range 2 and you have the Red Clad Craver in hand, you can go like, all right, power attack, vacant shift, cross over you, draw a card. Now it is even more believable that you even have the Red Clad Craver because you just drew a card,
You drew a card, sure.
set an EX right there. Neat. You know, I just got like 11 power coming into my opponent, and they couldn't really do much about that.
Right.
And once again, with your backside, this gets hilariously strong if the opponent lets you have it. +4 power gain advantage means you play a 7 power grasp, push them out to range 3, and then play a 7 power assault immediately afterwards, and then you have advantage again.
Yep.
Yep. Really, really strong stuff.
So what I'm learning here is that there isn't a setup, right? There's a real freestyle element where it's like, what do I have? I can probably make it work.
Yeah, Hyde is actually. I do think Hyde is fairly expressive.
Sure.
Um, a lot of what I've been saying is like, oh yeah, and then you just throw +3 power attacks. But there is actually like a decent bit of fanjangling that you get to do to get there because you have so many ways to get cards in your gauge and so many different boosts that are all perfectly viable at setting
Right.
up these pre-turn setups that yeah, you can just kind of ball.
Yeah, it's like if you zoom out far enough, yes, you have a line, and it's
Mhm.
exceed and throw dumb stuff at your opponent. But if you zoom in a little bit, there's actually quite a bit of detail and nuance to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but
There
yes.
is an amount of detail and nuance. There's
Yes,
more
yes,
than
yes.
it looked like when you were looking at it from far away.
Yes, yes, I would
Okay,
agree with that.
I buy that.
Last special boost in the kit is actually pretty relevant, but maybe not for the reason you're expecting. This is Reach. It's a boost on many, many characters. You probably talked about this like 15 times over the
Yep,
course of
I'm familiar with
XS16.
Reach.
Yeah, so you boost this at range 2, and you play Grasp or Spike, and it's a cool mix-up.
And
Just
there's no other
automatically
cards
does
that you
that.
would play with it.
Well, you can play Dive. That's another part of the cool mix-up.
Yep.
By
And
the way, you have Vacant
you
Shift
have
in the
vacant
kit.
shift. Oh, okay.
156 gets a lot better when it's 1 to 256 because it's on curve, right?
Yeah.
And it
And
also has after move too.
and it dodges sweep. So
So
now it's
dodges
donkey
sweep.
kick.
Yep. It doesn't even need to dodge Donkey Kick because it beats it clean. So then you just advance 2 past them and draw your free card.
No, now I said now it is donkey kick because
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
absolutely.
pushes you to 4.
Yep. And yeah, if you don't need to go to 4, maybe they play cross or whatever, calling out your spike. Cool. You just advance 2. You get a free card.
Draw a
Thanks for the
card.
money. You know,
Yep.
I love that you did that for me. Um.
So
So yeah,
this one though actually cannot be used with
correct.
your character ability. This is
Neither the front
finally
side
we
or the
found
back side.
one that is actually for real anti-synergistic because the other one that we thought was anti-synergistic was the EX attack. You got superior for that.
Yep.
Okay.
Um. Notably, both of these boosts that are giving you the additional range, effectively overpower, giving you before close, do have another fairly interesting thing going on with them. Overpower, especially, less so reach. But because you're Hyde and you get to generate gauge by moving like this, there are a lot of times where like you're just now conveniently in a space where you can threaten something that's pretty unbeatable if that's what you want to do. So
Sure.
like I'm backing up and it's like, okay, well, like I can just cash out and get a free cross right now and be a ranger. I'm threatening pizza. Um, Overpower specifically does have a pretty cool thing going on with its 2-turn setups, which is that Overpower is invisibly also a speed boost, even at
Sure.
range 1, because you if you boost this at range 1, the obvious thing you're forecasting is okay, I have +1 power, go into my turn, I void red +4 power, cool, and my sweep beats like everything. The less obvious thing you're forecasting is that you're Hyde, and so you can like retreat 1 and play a face-up attack. Um, and so you have essentially gained quote unquote a speed by doing this.
Yeah, only if your opponent passes the turn back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting.
Yep. Which is not especially common, but I have like 1 games off of it, so it's like a real thing to
Sure, it
keep
can
track
happen.
of, especially as the
Remember
opponent.
that you have a front side character ability that doesn't just
Yep,
get you gauge.
yep, yep, yep. It is a pretty neat case, especially for closing out
Sure.
groups.
So having looked at our special boosts, can we play the attack versus boost game really quick? Like just like most of the time,
Sure,
it
sure,
seems like
yeah.
vacant shift and not double jump.
Yep,
And
that's an
you need a
attack.
pretty specific use case for it. Same with Black Arbiter.
Yep, there's your attack.
Um, what else we got?
Shadow Scare is usually a boost, and it for me at least, it goes like boost and then force in like 4 quotation marks because I'm adding it
Right.
to gauge. I need a card to put in my gauge or whatever.
Sure, sure.
I need a card to revert. Um,
Then
and
attack.
then the attack, yeah.
Yeah,
But the attack is a relevant thing to keep online, so
sure.
you don't
As
just
is
slow
double
it.
jump, right? Like just
Yep,
because we
yep.
said like yeah, I'm not saying that like this is the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
TLDR version of this guide so far, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Red Flag Craver is, I think, actually usually the boost, because playing the attack is not as rewarding as the really ludicrous stuff you get out of charge attack.
Right.
However, if you just happen to have 2 copies of Redclad Craver in hand, you don't boost one.
Sure.
You keep the pair, right?
Of
Or if you
course.
have your superior in hand, you keep it.
Sure.
You don't break the pair. And pretty similar thing for Palebringer. Usually power attack. Keep this threat represented. If you have both of them, keep them. If you have superior, keep it.
Makes sense. Okay. Yeah. And that pretty much lines up with what I was figuring from when we were talking about them. Just wanted to confirm.
Yep.
So where to next? Should we talk ultras? Should we talk normals? Should we talk uh other setups that you haven't told me about that we can do with Vacant Shift yet?
There's a couple cool new things you can do with Vacant Shift that I haven't gotten to yet, but we're not quite there yet. Let's talk about these ultras.
Okay.
All right. So Void Red is a boost that allows you to exceed and take another action. So this is actually pretty relevant on Hyde.
Oh, is it?
Because
That's crazy.
yeah. So when you flip over, this ability gives you plus. Okay, so Gyro Vortex is actually a card.
Okay.
You do things with this card other than boost Void Red, such as CCing it.
Check.
Um,
It's worth 2 force, man.
it is worth 2 force. It's worth 2 force from your gauge too, which is
Yeah.
pretty
So okay.
cool.
So this is exceed for free, like
Mhm.
Veloth is. Have access to something else that you can throw in exceed mode, and then also you have the ability to get some force that you weren't planning to attack with.
Yeah. You're gonna take a better prep later.
Right.
And this is actually all right. I'm gonna say something heretical. This is actually a pretty decent attack.
Sure.
All right, let's break down why Gyro Vortex is probably better than just boosting Void Red all the time. Um, this attack has a lot of really interesting properties, especially within the context of being Hyde's kit. The first most obvious one is hit add the top 3 cards of your deck to gauge means that the actual contents of your gauge are super malleable, even like past the baseline level of oh yeah, I get to do my awesome gauge dance where I flip over a million
Right.
times and any card I want is in there, and I get to shimmy back and forth. Um, your gauge is super malleable, and especially if you have something like power attack in there, like boosted, and you hit with the Gyro Vortex, gaining the 3 new gauge immediately means that if you're on backside, the opponent now has 3 things that you can strike with plus 3 power with that they didn't know you could do before.
Sure. This is
Um,
basically like it's like CCing with your gauge.
yeah. Um, and the fact that Hyde gets such high value out of the opponent being unprepared to deal with his things from gauge means that is actually pretty high reward.
Right. You've been playing
Either
all game around the assault that's been in your gauge, and then suddenly it's not there anymore, and instead you have Shadow Scare.
yeah, and then like oh my cross doesn't matter anymore. Well,
Right.
shit.
Right. The thing
um,
I've been saving the whole time, I spent the thing that deals with Shadow Scare.
yep. This is only usually especially relevant if you're winning with Gyro Vortex on defense, or at least hitting with Gyro Vortex on defense, or you
Sure.
again have power attack in play, 2-turn setups, etc., etc.
Yeah, get the advantage
Um,
going, sure.
yeah, and this is like a perfectly functional on-curve card on defense. It actually does have a pretty cool property of being an assault like that beats Spike by just stunning it, so you get to
Stunning
keep
it,
your
sure.
positioning, which is relevant because then you get to play assault afterwards, which again hit at the top 3
Yeah,
cards of page.
if you could often if you could win by playing how do I put this? If Assault did everything that Assault did but didn't move you in,
Mhm.
sometimes you would prefer that. If only
Yeah.
it could also beat Spike while you did it.
Yep, and it sure does here.
Yeah.
This pretty cleanly takes out Spike. Um, because you're Hyde, you also have a lot of shimmying potential, so you can go into range 3 and play this face up. And once again, best option the opponent has is trade with sweep, as is usually the case since the Hyde's face up cards. So this does actually have a pretty dynamic threat profile when you're playing it from hand, less so from gauge because it's more forecasted.
Right.
Um, the fact that it costs 3 gauge to validate, and then you get the top 3 cards of your deck to gauge, means that you do have some minor but relevant option selecting stuff that goes on. So, for instance, I play my Gyro Vortex and you defend with, let's say, Sweep at range 3. And my gauge, I have like Assault, Spike, Dive, and I don't know, a Sweep. Well, I see that you just played your Sweep. Um, or,
I don't need a couple of these cards anymore. I
yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
validate with them. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe a more practical example, I have like or you just played your focus, right? And I'm like, okay, well, My assault is now like perfectly playable because your one potential answer is gone.
Right.
So let me just validate with the rest of these and
Sure. Sure.
keep my assault because it's super real, right? Not super relevant, but exists. Um, it is also just a 5 power, 5 speed attack, which I've talked about in a few words that putting power numbers on 5 speed attacks is usually really good.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have a charged attack in play, and this is a 7 power card from range 3. Sometimes you have 5 gauge. Notably, you do need 5 gauge to validate this from your gauge, 3 gauge for the validation cost, 1 gauge for the ability, and it itself has to be in your gauge, right?
Right.
Um, However, Hyde's gauge being super malleable, you can get to there from like 3 gauge or from like 2 gauge, no problem.
Pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah. But like just throwing this out with 8 power, really, really good. You know, it's about as good as playing Assault most of the time, but sometimes you just need another copy of Assault.
Yeah. Assault is a good card to put power on.
Yep. And then it has some like weird text that says after if this hits, seal this, and uh, yeah,
I guess it's to keep you from being able to loop it in your gauge, right? It's the same as your exceed
I guess you
ability.
could, you know, like I guess you could. Anyway, I'm gonna play the other copy now.
Right.
It does force you to have it, which like yeah,
Well, I mean,
that
but
is
it
fair,
it
but
also means that by playing it, you're not getting gauge that you can then use for economy. Is what I meant.
that is true. That is true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that could be relevant.
that is true. So yeah, it is a really interesting card. Um, anyway, it has Void Red on it.
Yep.
So
So most of the
like everything
time,
I just said
yeah,
exists. It's a worthy consideration. Turn this card sideways.
it's going to be so much easier to think about all of the other fun things you can do if you don't have to devote the headspace to figuring out what you're going to do with Gyro Vortex because you already boosted Void Red.
Yep. And a lot of the time, when Gyro Vortex is the correct card to play, it'll be pretty obvious.
Sure.
It is not a subtle card in when it is good.
Right. But
Maybe the most
to your
intricate.
point,
Mhm.
make sure that you are considering it when the option does occur.
Yeah, yeah,
Just because it has Void Red on it doesn't mean it's a card you cannot play.
yeah. It is a card that exists.
Got it.
All tools have functions, unless they're really, really bad tools.
Makes sense.
And even tools that are as bad as 145 do still have functions. Sometimes you really need to beat a command grab.
Yep. Makes
Okay,
sense.
last card in the kit. Dead Set Days. All right, this is like a shit post.
A card of all time. I have to drop the veil here a little bit. I hate this card.
Yeah. One of the most hated parts about Hyde, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, this card is such a shit post. 1 gauge, and if the opponent plays Grasp, you win the game.
Yep.
Or Cross. It also catches Cross from range 1 for some reason. This Ultra is pretty bad. It does have like insane comical blowout potential. But there is an unfortunate trend in your kit, which is that virtually everything you do that isn't EX or has power attached to it loses to sweep. And so the most natural thing in the world for the opponent is to just play sweep or focus because it just
Right.
wins.
Right.
So this is a call out for the side of the mix up that the rest of your kit
Like
already like doesn't
overrepresents.
care about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but when it works, it sure does have 8 delta into grasp. It also does draw 2. So like worst case scenario, you get into gauge and you draw 2. So it's like a weird bad CC action.
Right.
Um, is notably worse on defense, kind of. Being 2 speed and 5 defenses means that very very consistent interaction exceed 2 speed 5 defenses means you want to play the card on offense because the opponent initiating with sweep and you defend with this, it gets stunned out.
That's a crushing
Um,
loss.
a very very crushing loss. However, with Dead Set Days specifically, it like doesn't matter because it's horrible into sweep anyway.
Right. And they're probably holding their sweeps for defense because it's one of the things that they have that can answer some of your setups, right?
Yeah. Um, like this is all essentially to say this card does not actually have the best like estimated value.
Right.
Just
It's
because
just
it
really annoying when it does work.
yep, when it does work, it is the biggest blowout in your entire kit. It's
Yeah.
hilarious. Um, for hopefully very obvious reasons, you usually do not want to set this card face up, either with your front or backside ability.
Sure.
Um, it is pretty bad when you do that. Um, it does when you set it face up using backside at least. It does have some really funny things that can happen where if the opponent has like one card in hand and it's like grasp and they're like, oh shit, guess I got a wild swing. Right. You can force out that interaction, and then like worst case scenario, you get like a 3 power swing onto their block or something, which is not good, but you know, you can force that.
Right.
Deceptively competent face up during low econ situations. Also super dependent on the opponent. You know, if you're fighting like Chip Zanoff, everything he does loses to this. Like literally everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of awesome. Um, you know, characters with high printed speeds. Notably, this is not printed speed. This is just the opponent's speed. So, like, if Sagat boosts Tiger Destruction or the Swift Destruction, and he doesn't play sweep with that, you just like own him really
Right.
hard.
Right. So
And there
the
is Hmm?
the one thing I know about speaking of the Sagat matchup, like the one cool like fun fact I can contribute about Hyde, it will never come up, but for the sake of completion, you do need a card on your opponent's side to be able to measure their speed from.
Yes,
So
yes,
I love this interaction. So like Ryu, for example, can throw a Hadouken,
yeah. This
recur
is actually super relevant here because Ryu's Hadouken is 6 speed. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
recur it, or even Sagat's low Tiger Shot.
Mhm.
Um, recur it as an after effect, put it on top of your deck. There's no
Yeah.
card
The
anymore.
opponent has no speed. Yep.
Yeah, so Dead Set Days hits for 0 damage. This
Yep.
came up in Discord. Somebody asked about that at one point. I think it happened to them during a browser game.
Yeah. There are a bunch of like funny interactions like that with Dead Set Days that make the card even worse than it reads most of the time. Because like hypothetically, Ryo Hadouken would be like a really nice thing to counter with this card.
Right.
Because you know 6 speed. Oh yum. And then he just puts it on top of his deck, and you hit him for 0.
And you're like, oh,
Um, yeah. Some other relevant cards interactions that beats are like Testament's. What is it called? The bird throw. Um, Testament's bird throw. It's like the 6 speed card that boosts itself.
oh, Unholy Diver.
Unholy Diver. Yeah.
Yeah,
This completely fizzles against that. Hits them for 0.
right.
Very funny. Yeah.
If you really
You at least
want to
draw your 2
make
cards.
your local Exceed judge angry, you can ask them what happens when you throw Rolling Crystal Flash into it.
Oh, this won't make them angry. This will just make you sad.
Yeah, what happens in this interaction is an exercise left to the viewer.
Yep.
Uh, respond in
Specifically
the
in disform
comments.
position.
I would love to know what you think happens here. It's dumber than you think.
It's awesome. Okay. There is one fabled secret piece of tech with Dead Set Days, however.
Okay.
This is the high tech that no one wants to tell you about, all right? Are you ready for the true power of Dead Set Days?
You'd better believe it.
All right. I'm in Exceed mode. I have a Dead Set Days in my gauge. All right. I boost charge attack, and my gauge includes, let's say, Grasp and Vacant Shift and Dead Set Days.
Okay.
What do I want to play face up on my turn?
I mean, ideally it would be between Grasp and Vacant Shift if we lived in a sensible world.
Uh-huh.
So I'm
Well,
assuming you're going to tell me that you want to play Dead Set Days.
allow me to introduce you to the funniest thing in the world. With charge attack in play, you can play Dead Set Days face up, and it beats sweep cleanly.
Starts
2
reading
plus
charge
2
attack.
plus 3.
Wait, say that again?
2 power from charge attack, 2 power from the opponent playing sweep. That's their speed. 3 power
Yeah.
from playing it face up. This card is now just the ultimate Omni card.
Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it?
This very rarely comes up, even less commonly than like, you know, actually playing Red Clad Craver for 7 power. But there are situations where Dead Set Days is like actually a real checkmate, with comically high payout
If you
for
have
a
if you
mere
have like
1
any
game.
life lead at all,
Yeah.
because it's gonna
Um,
hit.
yep. There are a lot of funny things that so playing it face up does have real situations.
You sound so
If
sad to be telling me this.
Hyde really does put +3 power on every card in the game.
Every card. Okay.
Yep. All right, so probably the better half of Dead Set Days is the boost.
Yep.
Indulgence of Insulation, or For Love and Justice is the name of the Bang equivalent of
Yeah,
this
shout outs to
boost.
Bang.
Yeah. Shout outs to Bang, awesome character. Go play Bang.
Bang's
Like
a good time.
turn off this guide right now and
Right
go play
now,
Bang.
yeah, go
Yeah,
watch Blue's Guide on Bang. It's sick.
yeah. That character's awesome. Anyway, Indulgence Installation does do some pretty cool things. You know how I mentioned +1 power, +1 speed gets you a lot of really cool things here
Yep.
and here. By the way, you have Vacant Shift. Don't know if you remembered that.
What if you could do? What if you could do the relevant half of Superior at now strike speed?
Yeah. It does lose out on the other part of Superior that is, or the other two parts of Superior that are really good, which is that it
Craver
doesn't
and Bringer.
attack EX.
Yeah.
And it also can't be used with your character ability.
Right.
That being said, it is instant, so you just do it. You just strike with those stats. This is another way to capitalize on your 2-turn setups if you do them. So boost charge up, and then if you don't want to specifically swing with something in your gauge, you can do Indulgence of Installation and play Vacant Shift from your hand.
Yep.
Just swing for a casual 8 there
and just win that way.
Just win the strike. It does also work with your EXs alongside them. So you can play Redclad Craver for 6 power and 9 speed if for some godforsaken reason you need that. Probably more relevantly, Palebringer can be 6 speed and 6 power, which is like really, really dumb numbers.
Yeah, with Ignore Guard on top, that's crazy.
If you are actually playing Gyro Vortex, as I mentioned before, this is actually one of the best ways to play it, is to just throw Indulgence on it. It's fairly expensive, but you get like a really, really nice shape out of it. 1 to 3, 6, 6. That's Moonsong, more or less.
Yeah.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah, with a lot of instead of getting advantage, you just get a lot of gauge back.
Yep. You get all your gauge back and some pretty cool flexibility. So yeah, really great boost. Interacts with normals in ways that are very obviously good. Standard interactions like Cross being unbeatable from range 1, Dive being unbeatable from range 3.
Yep.
Spike having a very, very narrow loss case of only losing to Assault.
Undercurve Assault often.
Yep. Sweep, cleanly killing other sweeps. Great stuff.
Yep.
And more character by character basis, but Grasp being able to hit through 3 guard things can come up, and
sure,
this just turns that interaction off entirely. So yeah, great boost.
So we've got a ridiculous number of very, very strong things that we can do. Mm-hmm. Our opponent only has 30 life.
They sure do.
Like, clearly we don't need all of them, right? Mm-hmm. But we do have access to all of them. So the next question I'm going to ask is about economy. Like, how do I manage, what am I spending as force when I have a character who is so dependent on what exactly is in his gauge? It seems like the answer to that question is just like mostly whatever you need in the moment, because you can find your damage elsewhere.
More or less, yeah. Hyde is never really stuck by committing too hard to one specific game plan, because all of his game plans kill you. Right. So you can be fairly flexible. It does take, I think, a decent amount of experience with the character to know when it is actually fine to let go of things from your gauge.
Yeah, this is what I don't need this anymore because my opponent discarded this last turn and I don't have to cover that threat anymore, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And even past that, knowing when cards being relevant threats isn't even important anymore. So if I have my Assault engaged, the fabled range 3 7 power Assault, the vaunted strike, right?
Right.
Sometimes you just know what is remaining in the game and you're like, okay, this isn't actually relevant for me to keep up right now. I can afford to use this to swing with one of my other cards. And this actually comes up pretty often because you don't usually have more than 4 cards in gauge, right? And so if I'm sitting here with this gauge, and I know I really, really, really need to swing with Black Order this turn or something, and we're right here-ish, or I don't know why you need Black Orbiter over Assault, but hypothetical, stick with
sure, yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I actually do need the Shadow Scare to have something to do at range 5 after I leave, and this Vacant Shift is a relevant endgame threat because my opponent is out of grasp. okay, well, process of elimination. The card I'm spending as Gauge is Assault to play this
Right.
face up.
Right.
You know, and taking like actually knowing when what cards are valuable in the future and not is just a general exceed skill. But Hyde does test it fairly well.
Sure. Makes sense. So yeah, the better you get at Hyde, the better you'll be able to navigate situations like that. And honestly, the
Yep,
better at Exceed you get, the better you'll be able to navigate situations like that. So
absolutely, yeah,
there's definitely like a transferable skill there. So other than like what specifically is in your gauge, you also just like need cards to play the game sometimes, right?
absolutely, yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about what Hyde is doing, um, like for like turn to turn, not like managing economy aiming towards a payout, just managing economy so that you can play Exceed. What does that
Have you
look
heard
like
of
for him?
change cards action? Because it's a
Okay.
pretty good action.
Okay.
Um, so a really convenient thing Hyde does is that he does generate a lot of gauge, and a lot of the time it's kind of trash gauge. Like as mentioned, Dead Set Days from Gauge is not especially good. Gyro Vortex just kind of ends up there a lot of the time.
Because of what that
Sometimes
share.
you, yeah, yeah. Sometimes you just end up with a focus there, or like some random garbage because you needed to revert. Um, these things happen, right? Um, and a lot of the time, those cards aren't actually going to be good threats. But just CC. CC is
Okay.
an insanely good action. Just CCing this Gyro Vortex and Dead Set Days draws me 5.
Yeah.
Uh, for reference, preparing is 2 cards, right? That's not that's a little small compared to 5.
Sure. Yeah. And you're losing something, but if it's from your gauge, you're kind of not.
Mhm.
You're not really planning to pay out with a big expensive ultra. You're planning to pay out with a card from your gauge.
Yep. And you do also incidentally get these 2 cards in your gauge fairly frequently, which, as mentioned, are not amazing things to have,
Sure.
because they boost themselves, and also because singular copies of them are fairly, unnotable. So that is even more cards that are just in your gauge that you don't actually usually want to use for that.
Right.
Um, Repairing on Hyde is usually going to be the worst option between that and change cards. That being said, your actual consistent draw is not especially good. You have a draw 1 on Vacant Shift, and you have a draw 2 on Dead Set Days. Um, that is it in terms of your actual income that isn't generating gauge, and also mix up, I guess, on Spike.
Right.
So
Focus. You got a couple
yeah,
things
yeah,
here and
and
there.
focus.
Yeah.
You do have to take the prepare action. Expect to do that at least a couple times a game.
Okay. But
Um,
so my plan should be to kind of push the pace of the game and push the damage so that I don't need to be uh passive enough for my card draw woes to really matter.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
a lot of the time, even when you feel like super low on cards, preparing or CCing isn't even necessarily the correct action. I had a game yesterday even where I was on no cards in hand. I drew one, right? Um, for end of turn after boosting something, and my opponent did something to defuse, and I was like, okay, well, I just drew this Red Clad Craver. I have 4 cards engage. None of them are doing especially great things for me right now. I'm just going to turn this card sideways. And even though I don't actually have like something immediately to back this up, this is still setting up those devastating 2-turn setups that we talked about before.
Because you have
And
gauge.
yeah, not only do I have gauge, there are so many of them in the kit that they all just wrap together into like, I am so likely to draw something that
Sure.
can blow you out, right?
Sure.
Um, so actually keeping a large hand size is not especially important. Just try your best to not actually have to prepare very much because Hyde does not appreciate that
Yeah,
loss of
you have
tempo.
you have better things to do.
Mhm,
It also just occurred to me, if you if you have one gauge,
mhm.
can you just wild swing with +3 power?
Yeah, you can.
It says your attack has +3
Yeah, you
power,
can.
not
Yeah.
that card has
Um,
+3 power or something.
this is not usually actually relevant, but it is something funny you can do.
Okay.
Um, yep. This does cause a strike, and it does give your attack +3 power.
And I'm sure my opponent will also find it funny when I luck into one of the many cards that could have been in my gauge but weren't yet.
Yeah, yeah. When you get the Black Orbiter from the top, they're going to be really smiling. They're going to be loving life.
You love to see it.
Which once again, yes, some of the highest blowout you could possibly get as Hyde is turn 1 boost void red, UA Wild Swing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty messed up.
So that's economy.
Mhm.
That's all of our cards, right? We do have another 8 cards over here.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about some of them. Obviously, there are some really scary things you can do with them with +3 power.
Mhm.
Um, there is a boost on Superior that we would really rather use over Cross outside of specific circumstances. Other than those considerations, how am I evaluating my normals and their boosts?
Sure. Okay. Well, like you said, cross, you don't love playing. You can play it. You get good value out of playing it. You want to turn it sideways. It's your
Sure.
scariest boost, bar none, right?
Yep.
Grasp is a very, very relevant card in Hyde's kit because it is one of the main ways that you threaten endgame checkmates. Having Grasp engage means that the opponent can't be at range one of you, or else they take 6. You, of
Basically
course, need
ever,
to
yeah.
get Grasp engage. And as mentioned, basically everything you do that isn't transparent as Hyde loses to sweep. So actually playing Grasp is pretty undesirable a lot of the time.
Sure.
So this is one of the cards that you generally want to get into gauge by either using your frontside ability or the revert clause on your exceed mode, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
The boost on it is actually very good too. Hyde does have some kind of awkwardness when it comes to ranges. Even though he has, the ability to move one and strike face up, and even though he's got like the double jump, you do generally not want to have to use those. Um, and respect lets you, cover ground, advance out of the corner, just very free repositioning that also forces the opponent to strike into you a lot of the time.
Sure.
Because drawing 2 is a lot on Hyde. You get this while also having taken the action where you moved out of the corner. You're very happy.
Right.
Um, Assault, just going down speed order list here. Assault is a really, really good card by itself. Carries power boost fantastically. It's a great delivery system because you also get another turn after it. So even when they block it, your power is put to like great use. Um, Assault also, for very obvious reasons, does get a lot out of a lot of the things in Hyde's kit. +1 speed before close 1, +1 range, +3 power, +2 power, +1 power. Um, Not this one actually, but you get the idea. Um, because goes to Gage.
Sure. Unless you really
But
need Gauge, I guess.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
why
You
on earth would Hyde need to get Gauge that way?
So true. But yeah, Assault does carry a lot of the things in your kit pretty well. It's also a great EX. I'm not sure if you knew this. I say facetiously. EX Assault is a really good normal.
Yeah, it's my
Um,
favorite normal. It's D's favorite normal. We've got lots
yeah,
of EX Assault fans on XS Succeed.
yeah, yeah. It's a pretty fantastic normal. And so Superior goes on it pretty well. So yeah, Assault, really good card. The boost is marginally less good than Respect because a lot of the time you don't actually want to retreat 3. You can do it and throw pizzas, but this is a very slow way of doing it because the opponent gets another turn.
Sure.
And just retreating 3 as your action usually does not actually box the opponent out of being able to respond to it. They've got a whole turn to boost something to equalize or literally take the walk action.
Right.
But it is a fine boost. You usually play Assault. That's your best case scenario.
Yep.
Sometimes you need this. Sometimes you're in the zoner matchup where they can actually, egads, they can beat your pizza. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So
Um,
honestly, rude.
yeah, not fair. I'm supposed to hit you for 11 at the start of the game.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, you need it sometimes. It's a little awkward that it says close and not advance, but this can actually be to your benefit because range 1 does have some very scary things with grasp or, by the way, vacant shift.
Vacant shift exists.
Yeah, being really great things to threaten. Yeah, you want to play Assault. Gaining advantage, really good. Being able to play something from Engage instantly, really good because you gained advantage. And it also put itself into Gauge because you hit with it. Yeah, really good
Sure.
card.
Sure. Sure.
Dive is a really weird card in Hyde's kit. So you would first think, oh, reading. Okay, well, I'm a guy who throws huge balls of power around and smacks people with them really hard.
Right. But
So
you can't use it with your character
but
ability.
yeah, you can't do that with Hyde.
Yeah.
So, reading is actually surprisingly awkward in Hyde's kit. Despite that, it actually does, I think, have deceptively higher reward than a lot of other characters. Because even though you can't use it to get your big blowout turns, winning a simple strike with it uh, is actually pretty great with Hyde. Once again, assaulting into like a spike that you read guarantees another turn where you can throw a big power bomb. Or, for instance, Whiffed Reading is marginally better on Hyde than a lot of other characters.
Use the
Because
scout.
yeah, which is normally a really bad use of reading. However, since Hyde is predicated on the opponent, like Hyde's game plan is predicated on the opponent not having answers to things that require one specific answer, checking if they have that one answer is really strong.
Sure. Especially if you can finagle a way to gain advantage out of your whiffed
Yes,
reading.
yeah.
Which
Usually, again, the whiff reading is your worst case scenario reading.
sure.
You don't want to do this, and it's not what you should actually aim for, but it is a marginally better reward than most characters who get it.
Right, yeah. So we're not saying like deliberately whiff a reading. We're saying that sometimes when you whiff a reading, you'll still be like, cool, I can hit with +3 power next turn guaranteed.
Yeah. Dive as a card, or dive as an attack is pretty important to Hyde because it is actually a way to beat sweep. Because as mentioned, unless you're playing your card face up or playing it EX, you just don't beat sweep as Hyde.
Right.
It's very difficult. Your three ways of doing it are right here across your normals: cross,
Right.
dive, and spike.
Right.
So keeping one alive is real. Surprisingly good card engage. Hitting for 8 from range 4 is really solid. A little less good at range 3 because assault actually does win against it instead of just making you whiff. Still like pretty great to have it as an option. For a similar reason to why Palebringer is actually a fine card to have in your gauge. Just being able to threaten that from as far as you can, pretty great. Spike is Spike.
Another way to beat sweep.
Yep. Spike sure is a normal. It's not especially great for you, mostly because you don't have amazing ways to capitalize on it. You do have Indulgence of Insulation, as mentioned before, to make this 4-speed to, cleanly go over slows and beat dive, and also your only lost case is assault.
Yep.
Those are good traits. Mix up is usually the real thing that you want to do with Spike, as long as you don't have to keep it alive to, beat sweep. Move 1, strike, draw 1. Really good combination of effects on Hyde, especially because you do have quick step or double jump in the kit. So you can threaten things from like surprising distances and also keep them face down. Which is relevant. Like you can go from range 1 to 3 and throw like an actual range 3 mix up. You would usually rather just play Vacant Shift than do all of that, but situations change. You can't just say, all right, this is the one thing I'm going to do with this card most of the time. Sometimes you really need to just do that to claw your way back into something. So mix up, really good. Also, by the way, I just mentioned Vacant Shift, but did you remember you had Vacant Shift in the kit?
I did actually this time.
Okay, well that's good because I literally just mentioned it. Anyway, your power attack in play. You can just do this and move on in, even on backside, without having to revert.
Yep.
Hit for 6, gain advantage. Pretty cool stuff.
Do something else.
Yep. It is a little bit of incidental draw on top of that. The draw 1 after setting your attack is like appreciable.
Sure.
Sweep is one of your biggest payouts. It is literally your highest power payout most of the time. Just swinging for 9 on backside, pretty cool. Not much to say about it. You want to play Sweep? It doesn't have a very good boost on it because you're from Season 6.
Yep.
Just Defense isn't significantly better in this kit than it is in most other Season 6 kits.
And in most other Season 6 kits, it fails pretty miserably to compete with Sweep.
Yep. Sweep is a pretty godlike card.
Yep. So you'd use, knowing from other lessons, you would use Just Defense basically like if your life total is so low that you can't afford to sweep anymore.
Yep. There are a couple other interesting but not especially good use cases for Just Defense in Hyde's kit. Notably, EX Palebringer does literally just have 0 lost cases at that point, like absolutely none.
True, yeah.
But like, do you care? Did you really spend a sweep to confirm 5 damage from a Palebringer that the opponent is just going to block because you played Just Defense EX?
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter. Sometimes matters, usually doesn't. So yeah, play Sweep. Sweep's really good. Play Sweep.
Yep.
Also does have a really nice effect of getting rid of cards from the opponent's hand. Once again, Hyde really loves the opponent being lower on options, and getting rid of random things means the opponent doesn't get to decide what they're holding on to. So they lose that grasp that they've been holding, and
Sure. You open up holes in
vacant
your
shift.
opponent's defenses,
Yep.
and then you vacant
Uh,
shift them.
yeah, yeah. Focus is pretty similar. Focus is a really good card. Play focus.
Yep.
Um, Veloth is also like a really good boost. And it is good in Hyde's kit as well. Usually, if you're exceeding, you would really prefer to do it with Void Red. Um, but like sometimes you don't have Void Red. Sometimes you need to be in exceed mode, and you don't have any gauge that you're willing to spend to take the action to exceed.
Sure.
I wouldn't veil off over taking the exceed action as a rule. Like if you have to pick between the two of them, I do think manually exceeding is sometimes on Hyde decently better than playing Veil Off because Focus is like such a relevant trading card.
Yeah, focus
Um,
really is that good, especially on a character
yeah,
whose defenses seem to be literally specific EX attacks, and that's kind of it.
yep, yep. So like you do want to be able to trade with the opponent's sweeps as well. If trading even is a pretty great thing if you're playing mix ups and not just slamming stuff down face up.
Sure, absolutely.
Then there's block. Block is a bad card. Block is a good card. Block is the best card in the game and probably the worst card in the game.
Yep.
You need it
All
when you need it.
correct.
You hate it when you hate it. You spend it as force every time.
Yep, every single
Um,
time. No one's ever blocked an exceed.
yep. And then sometimes you need to keep it.
Yep.
And then it
That
has
all
tech hit on
tracks.
it. Yep. Tech hit notably does not interact with your ability suite as with mix up reading. So it does have that awkwardness going on with it. But being able to tech a boost, very strong. Being able to tech something that you wouldn't otherwise be able to contest, pretty good. You can tech it, go into an assault again, gain advantage, slam down something face up. Now that your opponent's defenses are gone, good stuff. Really strong boost.
Sure.
Notable awkwardness in that it makes your neutral kind of weird if you go into longer boost wars because you can't just tech one thing and then be done with your turn.
Right. You need to
Um,
strike.
you must strike. So, like, if the opponent has two boosts in play and both of them are holding a significant advantage over you, it doesn't help you very much.
Right.
But it is a real thing to use.
Okay.
And also,
Makes
it's on
sense.
block, the best and worst card in the game.
Yeah,
So, like,
and
it's got to
pretty
be the
easy
best
to
and the worst
justify
first.
if you need tech hit, you'll kind of
Yep.
know and what are you holding your block for.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's our normals. We have covered every single card except for Ryu over here. We've covered every single card that we have on our board at this point. Every boost, every card. Anything else you want to mention about things from Hyde's perspective before we talk about counterplay and then wrap it up?
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think if you're trying to play Hyde efficiently, a lot of the time you actually need to be more aggressive than what a lot of your tools are telling you.
Okay.
Because being lame on Hyde is fairly low reward and also fairly unsustainable. You have these two tools that are really, really good at being lame, and you have this tool that is really, really good at being lame. But the notable thing is that if you're playing Vacant Shift exclusively to be lame and duck out of attacks, you're losing 5 power. If
Yep.
you're playing EX Red Cloud Craver to uninteractively stop things, you are losing 2 cards to trade even with probably sweep. Um, EX Palebringer does just win, but you can only do it once. You can only do either of these once, assuming you're not committing a superior to it, and then it's even more face up.
Right.
So a lot of these like really strong under or uninteractive tools can only carry you so far because all it takes is the opponent calling one of them correctly and like trading even with it or blocking it, and you're just like, well, shit.
Right.
I don't actually have a significant thing I can hold over them anymore. So Hyde does need, and same thing kind of goes with your ability, where it's saying like, oh, you get to uninteractively build gauge. That means I want to do that very frequently. You do need to be more aggressive than that, because otherwise you yourself will fall into the same trap that you were trying to lead your opponent into, um, of dwindling down our options until I have things that meet
Sure.
yours cleanly.
Yeah.
You can
Resource
very
bleed is
easily fall
happening
into
on
that
both
yourself.
sides of the game.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Yep. And by not playing, kind of more proactively and taking somewhat higher risk, I don't think you ever need to take a true extreme risk on Hyde, but you do need to do things that are slightly higher risk, like playing a face-up sweep at range, 1.
Sure.
Sometimes they
Yeah.
cross out.
If the expected value is high enough, you're going to have to do it.
Yep, yep. Um, and sometimes you will lose games doing that. But
Yep.
I am very confident on average that those are the things that you need to do. Um, like if you were to ask me if I'm going to throw a face up sweep blind into Ryu's hand of 3 cards at range 1, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And unless his deck is down to like 6 cards and 2 of them are 1-inch punch, then yeah,
right,
I'm doing that. I know that he has things that blow me out. All likelihood, my win case is so much higher value and not that uncommon
right. I don't need
than
to win every single time if I win hard enough a couple of times.
yep. And so
Makes sense.
sometimes you just have to let it dangle. You can't
Sure.
always wait for the perfect checkmate. You have to play the game.
Got it. Okay. And so my final question as we wrap the guide up
Yeah.
is, and you already actually were sort of talking about it, about what happens when Hyde is a little bit too passive when he runs out of defensive options, is counterplay.
Mhm.
So we've talked a whole lot about what Hyde can do. We know the Hyde game plan or game plans. What is my opponent doing to stop him?
Playing sweep.
Okay. Yep. Just initiating the sweep is the counterplay.
No. So sweep is a really, really good card against Hyde. If
All
Hyde
right.
does not play his card face up for bonus power, or an EX pair for Palebringer, sweep at the very least trades with like basically everything he's doing.
Right.
Um, yeah, sweep is really, really good. You're going to connect probably 6 delta to Hyde's face every single game, and also sweep some cards. This is really relevant. You especially want to do this when you are like trading with things like Vacant Shift, EX Red Clad Craver, because you are denying these cards, which are really, really strong. They're one like you're denying them a true clean win, which is
Sure.
what they would really like to have, right? Um, if you can take out his options that are very, very strong and very, very bullshit, at the same time you are doing equivalent damage back to him, you are winning in the long run because you probably have a much more well-rounded kit of cards that function consistently than Hyde does.
Right. Yeah. You didn't min max all of your power in exchange for jank.
Yeah. You are winning if you are the one on the other side of the deplete his resources train.
Sure. Makes sense.
Um, to that end, you're gonna have to play mix-ups. Hyde does have this universal defensive suite. You just gotta strike into him.
Yeah.
Sometimes he will call it wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes he will call it right.
And also, you
Once
can't
again,
afford to give him time.
yeah. Um, Once again, Hyde will only trade even as his worst case scenario. Which means that you would like to force him trading even until his cards that make that his worst case scenario are gone.
Right.
And then you could just kill him, right?
Sure.
What's he
Sure.
gonna do at that point? Throw face up grasp at you? You're already
Hope
like
that
a 10 life lead.
Dead Set Days works.
Yeah. Um so Hyde does have like this whole suite of really, really dumb bullshit mix-ups. Sometimes Dead Set Days hits you, and you just if you are playing against Hyde, you have to accept that and probably not get tilted by that
Right.
because one of Hyde's win conditions is genuinely tilt.
Yeah.
Um,
it's just make the opponent mad enough that they don't respect the rest of his options.
yeah. Um, because it's a whole lot of bullshit that Hyde
Sure.
throws at you. So, you know, you just kind of keep a decent neutral game up, and he just falls apart eventually.
Yep.
Um, Make sure, of course, you're respecting the things in his gauge and also the things that aren't in his gauge. He can do hilariously explosive plays where he goes like Void Red revert, Assault engage, Void Red play Assault face up from range 3, and you couldn't have done anything about that,
Yeah. You just got to
right?
hold that.
You you have to accept that he will just do that sometimes.
Yep. Win harder
Um,
on your turn.
yep, his turns are quite bad other than his dumb defensive suite.
Yep.
So cleave through that, play on your turn, boost things that make it so his stuff is worse, and generally you can grind through all of his really strong stuff before he can clean out your entire kit.
Yep. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that we started out talking about, there are some knowledge checks. There are some things that are like, all right, if you
Lots.
don't know that Hyde can do this, he's going to beat you.
Yep.
Period. So watch
Lots
this
and
guide. First of all, welcome to the guide.
lots.
And then once you're over those things, beat him at a game of Exceed, accepting the fact that he can do some things that you really can't deal with.
Yep.
Okay, that makes
When
sense.
Hyde is going to commit to these strikes, most of the time you just lose them.
Yeah. So either throw a surprise EX when he really is positive that he's got you dead to rights and make him spend a lot of value for nothing, or just beat him on your turn.
Yep.
Makes sense. Okay. Well, now I know everything there is to know about Hyde. I wish I didn't.
God help you.
Yep. Yeah. I've left this lesson a worse person. Aevusonian, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise.
Thanks for
Always
having me.
a good time talking to you. Folks at home, please hide responsibly. Please do not subject your friends to this character without giving them a primer on some of the knowledge checks. Doesn't
Tell them
mean
to
that you
watch
can't.
this video.
Yeah. Tell them to watch this video. Boost my engagement numbers. Absolutely. Doesn't mean you can't play Hyde. Doesn't mean you can't have fun with Hyde. Doesn't mean you can't be a cool Exceed player who is like respected by the community and play Hyde. I also don't want to see anybody. We're kind of joking about how I don't particularly like Hyde. I think Aevusonian has some complicated feelings about Hyde as a Hyde main. I'm sorry for insulting you like that.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no, you heard me. I don't want to see anybody main shaming just because your buddy really likes Hyde. Just that's okay. Everybody can like characters, and that doesn't mean we need to be awful to each other about it. So go play Exceed, go play Hyde. He seems like he's pretty fun for at least one person at the table. I'll bet you can find some games. What's that?
He is very fun to play. Play him.
Yeah, I'll bet you can probably find some games where he's fun for both people at the table. Just don't subject your opponent to him if they don't know what he can do. That's it from my end, I think. Aevusonian, anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
Fundamentally, play more Exceed.
Yeah, please do. Also, you have Vacant Shift.
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot.
You forgot to mention Vacant Shift, Aevusonian. Classic rookie mistake. This is your first Access Exceed lesson.
Can we redo this? I don't think I mentioned Vacant Shift.
Yeah. No, we'll start over in just a second here. Okay. I'm gonna end the recording, and then we can just start again.
I can't believe I forgot Vacant Shift.
It's all right, man. Listen, it's a lot of pressure. All right, folks. I'm gonna go re-record this lesson with Aevusonian. I'll see you for this one again. Have a good day, everybody. Goodbye.
Vacant Shift.
You missed it.